I had my thoughts about Martin Luther King, right? About what he did, who he was, um, and I had my feelings about it. Not necessarily bad, right? So I understood um, Martin Luther King, like the predicament that he was in, um, with the information that I had, right? But I think the more and more I learn, I'm giving pause, right? And the thing is, even after all I know, I still have a favorable opinion of him, but there's a lot more to the situation than than what's known to us,
So you
right?
understand origins after civil rights fight battles and shit.
Mm, you
Just
know
niggas
what, bro?
let off some
I,
steam.
so
With
the thing is this: I did a lot of research, and I've heard all those stories, right? Um, I haven't seen them. I haven't seen evidence of them. I've heard of them. I haven't seen evidence of them. I'm not saying the shit didn't happen, right? But I haven't seen evidence of that shit. And really, like, what a motherfucker doing in his private life, I tend to stay away from. I don't give a fuck about that shit. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I
So,
get it. So
so,
the aspect of how
what
when
I'm
the
talking
FBI
more
say that
about. I'm
did
talking.
some unusual sexual acts and stuff coming from a Yakubian, I think that's kind of wild because Yakubians
So,
do some
this the
wild.
thing. This
Who
the
are they?
thing, right? Um, the FBI telling me who Martin Luther King is, then I have to look at the other shit that they tell me,
No,
right? These are notorious fucking liars. Why would I believe what they say about him?
so it's like it's kind of weird coming from them because y'all motherfuckers ain't too wrapped up tight in the first place. So
Right.
tomato
Um.
tomato.
So, um, one of the things I wanted to do with this conversation, and with kind of examining the King topic, um, anybody that knows how I do it, like, I only talk about some shit if I think I'm contributing something to the conversation that's not really talked about, right? A unique perspective. And so I tried to put together information that gave a different perspective on what was going on. Okay. Um, so as I'm kind of going through a lot of this information, I definitely want y'all feedback because I'm sure some of this shit is gonna be new to a lot of y'all. All right. Um, so I think so. I want to go through it just to kind of flesh it out, right? To get y'all thoughts on it. All right. And so, and as we go through it, I'm going to try to bring there. So it's at the conjunction of a lot of other stuff. All right. So it kind of, there kind of branches to it, but I'm gonna try to stay on track, and so we don't get super sidetracked and shit, so we can get to where we going. All right. Um. So I think in order to understand, like to get the big picture understanding of everything that we're gonna talk about, we got to get some basic understandings. Um, there's some basic information that we need to kind of understand. And so we've talked about this before. Not we didn't talk about it in the cookout or in tinfoil. We've talked about it in side rooms before. But um, this is right up. I think Chuck talks about this. I wish Chuck was here. This is right up his alley. So does anybody know um, so we talk about all the time. We talk about what agenda, the mission goals of Agenda 21, right? Um, so here, let me run through them right quick. Um, the mission goals for Agenda 21, because this is it becomes very important as we go along throughout the cook, and we start seeing what we're seeing. So real quick, for everybody that haven't heard them before, so yo, if you know anybody that might want to hear this information, you might want to ping them in here now. We finna kind of we're about to get into the information, and it comes kind of quick. And we're gonna kind of get into the weeds. So if you know people you think might want to hear this shit, now's the time to ping them in, right?
I feel like
All
this
right.
is gonna be one of those moments from like In Living Color when uh Keenan Ivory Wayne's sister. Don't nobody talk about Miss Jenkins. Don't nobody talk about Master King,
A
okay?
fucking yo.
This is Marcus Garvey 2.0.
You know what though? But this is the other side because she was like, "Well, what if I got to talk about Martin Luther King?" And we was like, "Nigga, fuck about that shit. Nigga, I'm finna talk about Martin Luther King, right?" Um, okay. So, um, this all goes back to this. It all goes back to Agenda 21. All right. Um, I'm finna read off the mission goals for Agenda 21. All right. So this is the New World Order, UN Agenda 21, 2030 mission goals. Okay. One world government, one world cashless currency, one world central bank, one world military, the end of national sovereignty, the end of all privately owned property, the end of the family unit, depopulation, control of population growth and population density, mandatory multiple vaccines, universal basic income, microchip society, purchasing, travel, tracking, and controlling, implementation of world social credit system, trillions of appliances hooked into the 5G monitoring system, government raised children, government owned and controlled schools, colleges, universities, the end of private transportation, owning cars, etc. All businesses owned by the government, corporations, the restrictions of non-essential air travel, human beings concentrated into human settlement zones and cities, the end of irrigation, the end of private farms and grazing livestock, the end of single-family homes, restricted land use that serves human needs, the ban of natural non-synthetic drugs and naturopathic medicine. That's UN Agenda 21 mission goals. Okay. Now, check out where is that? Now check out the Karl Marx 10-point program of communism, right? There's the Karl Marx 10-point program of communism. Number one, um, abolition of property and land and application of all rents to public purposes. What does that sound like? That's the abolition of property and land and application of all rents of land to public purposes. All right. Um, all right. Number two, a heavy progressive graduated income tax. All right. At number three, abolition of all inheritance rights. Okay. So this is them keeping control of everything. Number four, confiscation of property of all immigrants, those leaving the country, and rebels. So anybody that talks against the country, yo, they taking your shit. And you can't pass along property, right? So um, this is right in line with the Agenda 21 mission goals. Okay. Number five, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of a national bank with state capital and exclusive monopoly. What does that sound like? One world currency, right? The government controlled currency. Okay. Number six, centralization of the means of communication and transportation in the hands of the state. Government controlled transportation, right? And of private transportation and shit like that. All right. So we're in line. Communism, Agenda 21, right in line. All right. Number seven, extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state, the bringing into cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of the soil generally in accordance with the common plan, right? Government controlled agriculture and farming. Okay. Number eight, equal liability of labor, establishment of an industrial armies, especially for agriculture. All right. Government controlled agriculture and farms. Okay. Mm, number nine, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over the country. I mean, the government gonna give you everything you need. We got you. You don't need private land and all that bullshit. All right, in line. And 10, free education for all children in public schools, abolition abolition of children's factories, labor in present form, combination of education with industrial production, government controlled education, government controlled schools. Right? That's the common. That's 10 point. That's the 10 points of communism. Which one of those don't fit in Agenda 21? Anybody? Which one of those don't fit in Agenda
The
21?
kids, the kids not working in factories. They're gonna. It seems like they're gonna put kids in factories.
Uh, so no, 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 no. So remember, it's government controlled education. Then after you get that, then they'll determine where you go work at. Somebody's gonna go work in the factory.
Oh, like that movie, The Giver, where it was like everybody had their role in society type of thing, right?
Hmm. Yeah, somebody's gonna go work in the factories. You know what I'm saying? Best believe it. It may not be the kids, but somebody's going to work in the factories. You know what
That
I'm
was a good book too.
saying? So that's the communist,
Can you?
the
I
10
was about
points
to
of
say, can you read
communists.
them again? Because I was doing this puzzle.
God damn it, you need
I'm
a.
sorry. How many
All
was
right,
there?
so it's 10 points. 10 points of communism.
You
All
don't
right,
gotta
Karl
read it
Marx
again.
10-point program. Huh?
You don't gotta read it again.
All right.
I'll just catch up.
Abolition of property in the land, abolition of property in land and application of all rents of land to public purposes, a heavy progressive graduated income tax, abolition of all right of inheritance, confiscation of the property of all immigrants, those leaving the country, and rebels. Um, let's see. Oh, centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of national bank with state capital and exclusive monopoly. Centralization of the means of communication and transport in the hands of the state. Extension of factories and instruments of production owned by the state. The bringing the bringing into cultivation of wastelands and the improvement of the soil, generally in accordance with the common plan. Equal liability of all to labor, establishment of all industrial armies, especially for agricultural, combination of agriculture with manufacturing industries, gradual abolition of the distinction between town and country by a more equitable distribution of the population over country. And the last one is free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factories labors in present form, combination of education with industrial production. So there go your 10, Jamila. You're happy now. All right. So that's the communist 10-point program and the Agenda 21. Okay. Um, they are indistinguishable from one another. Okay. And the 10 point, the communist agenda came first. All right. So it came from Karl Marx. Um, so the question is, why is so seeing that communism and the agenda 21 is the same thing, why is it necessary, do you guys think? Um, or why do you think they would try to impose communism everywhere? Seeing as how they say it's terrible and there's a whole media campaign against it, why is why would they want to impose it if it's so bad? Anybody? Why would they want to impose communism? What's the point um of trying to install communism under a different name, but they still
No
trying to impose
one.
communism?
I would say that for the fact that no one would be able to own anything. You feel me, or control.
Facts. Control.
That's what I was looking at, a level of control myself. As far as people also, like when things are being switched over, it's easy to add and increase more restrictions, in the confusion of the exchanges.
Hmm. So when you listen to communism and you listen to the Agenda 21, pretty much everything is in the hands or ran by the state, right? The people at the top, and so therefore it's easier to control people, right? If everything that people do is controlled by you, then people only do what you tell them to do, right? So this is about control, right? It's hard to control a capitalistic society, right? Um, Communism makes it easier to control people. When you got millions and millions and hundreds of millions and billions of people, you got to control. Um, Communism is the easiest way. Okay. Um, and so the question is, how, right? So how do you implement? So how do you take a place that's not communist and implement a system of communism? Okay. How you take a place that's not a communist place, because like there's been a bunch of places that weren't communist, and then you implement communism, right? It's not a thing that happens overnight. I'll tell you that right off. Okay, it doesn't happen overnight. Okay, but there's a game plan, there's a map for it. Okay, there's a fucking map for it. All right, and so I kind of want to lay down the map, right? So how do you fucking? What are the steps? All right, so. Hmm.
Divide the people. Get them fighting among themselves rather than their common enemy. Create the appearance of popular support through a favorable press and the use of terror, intimidation, and the creation of martyrs. Make the world believe the revolution is a popular one, particularly among those being liberated. Neutralize the opposition. When obstructionists to the cause become too irritating, label them as fascist, Nazi, anti-Semitic, extremist, racist, controversial. Precipitate mob violence. Get the mobs into the streets. March and demonstrate. As the demonstrations grow in number and intensity, they will acquire political character through the desired collision and open combat with the forces of law and order. Since mass action culminates in insurrection and civil war, what of the fifth principle of the communist strategy? Create the semblance of revolution.
So, my man just laid down,
Kina
huh?
also made a good point in the chat that welfare would be a level of creating communism, getting people, used to being basically taken
Yeah,
care of and supported.
yeah, that's the universal basic income, right? So that's part of Agenda 21. You get what I'm saying? So that's part of Agenda 21, universal basic income. And so the if you're going to actively try to impose a system, right? Then you have to go about these steps. And so the first step that my man just laid down was what? Divide the people, right? So because the whole point is um, you're gonna have to create factions to have them start fighting, right? Ultimately, you want to create a situation where the government has to come in and solve the problem, and therefore the government has the power. It's what's keeping everybody, keeping everything on track. So the whole point of this is to create a situation where the government is the solution. So you start by dividing the people, right? To create a goddamn uh, to create factions, right? So you have you paint somebody as over somebody else, right? Somebody's being oppressed, right? Then number two, where they say you'll create the appearance of popular support. So once you got a situation where you have So, a faction of the people who are like, yo, we're being oppressed, we're being fucking done wrong, this, that, and the other, right? Then you start running the media campaign, right? Where other people who aren't there are seeing that, hey, yo, these people over there doing something because they're being oppressed, and it's a bunch of people on their side, right? When it says create appearance of popular support, right? That's when the media gets involved. That's what propaganda is, right? So that's what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about how they're faking the floods every fucking where, right? And so now everybody is like, oh man, there's floods everywhere. California is flooding. There's motherfuckers in California 2 blocks away, like, oh damn, this California is flooding. Ain't no flood no fucking where, bro. What are you talking about? But that's because the propaganda machine has told you, no, it's a flood. Don't worry about what you see. It's a flood, right? Ocean, you trying to say something? Oh, okay. All right. And so anybody, um, and so the third step is, yo, anybody that tries to bring sense to the situation and say, man, um, what you say is happening ain't happening, right? Then you call them names, right? You villainize them, you demonize them, right? If motherfucking you say, yo, you know it ain't no flood over here, right? Then you call them what? Conspiracy theorists. Man, dude, it's on the news. Fuck is you talking about? You want to conspiracy people, right? You crazy. You know what the fuck you talking about, all right? Um, then after that, step number 4 is precipitate mob violence, right? Um, and we see that all the time. There are all kinds of. So one of the things that I think about all the time is like the George Floyd riots. Well, it's all kinds of riots that happen everywhere, right? And so they get the people out there to march, and then they create. They send people out there to start the violence. That's why it's always bricks around, right? The bricks are there specifically so that their people can start throwing them and create a chaotic atmosphere. That's strictly what they're there for the purpose of them to come in and create chaos. That's what that police car is there for too. The one that's always there to get beat up. They put that there so that their people can start beating on it and jumping on it. So it looks like, oh, look what they did to the police. Oh wow. Right? Chaos. So it looks like chaos. All right. And then all of that creates a semblance of, oh, look, it's some happening. It's a revolution happening. All right. So these are the steps, right? And so in the revolution, then what comes to power inevitably is either a new government or the old government steps in and says, you know what, we're gonna take care of it. We just need more power. So we're gonna create more laws and give ourselves more power to make sure that whatever the fuck you talking about don't happen again. Okay. So those are the steps, right? So they're simple steps, right? It seems like, you know what? They did it. We'd see them. They do these shits every fucking day. Every fucking day. They do these steps, right? In some way, form, or fashion, they do these shits every day, right in front of our face, right? Um, yo, any questions about that? So if y'all got questions or comments now, like I'll try to pause to kind of let you guys get in and shit, because again, I want y'all feedback on what the fuck we finna talk about. All right, good. Um,
Yep.
all right, cool.
Yeah, I can hear you. My
um,
bad, bro. I had to switch back to the app.
all right, cool. Hey, let me ask y'all this. Um, was Castro a communist?
I thought he was.
Hmm? I was just curious. Anybody? Yo, was Castro a communist? Anybody think Castro was a communist? Anybody?
You asking because
Castro
you
a
know the answer,
dictator.
or
I
you
thought
really trying
I
to
thought he
really?
was a communist.
Yo, did Castro bring in the communist
Nah,
government?
they said Castro was a dictator and Xi Jinping a communist leader. That's the way they phrase it, even though I don't really see the difference between the two, but that's how they'll tell you if you look it up. Who was a dictator and who was a communist leader. That's how they tell you.
Hmm. But when we see it, right, it looks like because the narrative is definitely that Castro is a communist, right? Um, and it looks to me like he's a communist. However, um, this is the narrative that they were running when he was kind of coming to power. Check this shit out.
Sang praises of Fidel Castro. Many eulogized him as the savior of Cuba. In the United States, Castro was referred to as the Robin Hood of the Sierra Maestra, that he pursued the same policy of taking from the rich and giving to the poor. The nation's press was quick to report, this is not a communist revolution in any sense of the word, and there are no communists in position of control. The only power worth considering in Cuba is in the hands of Premier Castro, who is not only not communist, but decidedly anti-communist.
So even though Castro said he wasn't a communist, and the newspapers said he wasn't a communist, he was backed by communists. He was financed by communists. He used communist tactics. And as he came into power, he ran the country similar to how communists run their country. But he never said he was a communist. That becomes very important. That he never said he was a communist. He just did everything that communists do. All right. Um, so there are a couple of countries um, that um, the the world powers instituted communism in. Okay, Cuba is one of them. Any other guesses on the other ones where communism was instituted?
I thought the Soviets, like, yeah.
North Korea.
Um, North Korea. Was it instituted there? I don't know. So the thing is, I don't recall a war where it was one thing and then it shifted to another. Right? I don't recall that. Right? China is one. Right? Where they had a very public um, kind of switchover of government. Right? That a very public switchover of government where the steps that we talk about, where divide the people, create appearance of popular support, neutralize opposition, precipitate mob violence, and create a semblance of a revolution. Right? They went through those steps. The
I see what you're saying.
yeah, they went through those steps. Another country that went through those steps is Algeria, which was being ran by the French. All right, and so the French kind of colonized Algeria, and but the Muslims were already there, so the Arabs were there. The French came in and colonized it, and so um, they had kind of a revolution there, and it became a communist country where they actually went through the steps. Cuba is the same thing, right? They went through the steps. Okay. Um, what's up? You just want to say something, General?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I wonder how Venezuela would maybe connect into that. I
Mm,
could look into
yeah,
that real
I'm
quick.
not sure how Venezuela came into it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if they went through the steps or if they fucking just embraced that shit. I don't know. Um, all right. So, I kind of want to get that, so get an understanding, um, as we kind of move forward, right? So you got to understand what communism is, and what it looks like and how they institute it. Okay. Um. So let's go to the civil rights movement. All right. So we're talking about Martin Luther King, right? Um. In order to understand how Martin Luther King Jr. got to where he did, you got to understand who his dad was. Okay. Martin Luther King Sr. Was Boule. Y'all remember we did a whole cook on the Boule last year, right? Um, so understanding the etymology of the Boule and what their purpose is. So remember, the Boule was founded for the purpose of being the gatekeepers of Black society. They were founded by the U.S. By the military, or they were weaponized by the military to spy on Black society using preachers, right, and other staples in the community, but mainly preachers, okay, and to gatekeep Black society. That's their function. That's their function, is to gatekeep Black society. And so Martin Luther King Sr. was Boule. All right. He attended Morehouse. His wife attended Spelman, right? Both Boule schools, right? Spelman is actually named after a Rockefeller, Laura Spelman Rockefeller, John D. Rockefeller's wife, right? Spelman was founded, so was Morehouse. They were founded as schools used to groom Negroes.
And Morehouse was named after his best friend.
hmm He said Morehouse is named after his best friend, for those that didn't hear what he said.
Check
Yeah,
your
that's all
back
I
channel,
said.
bro.
Hey
All
fam,
right.
hey yo, and then Spellman's named after a Rockefeller.
Swipe over.
Yeah, it's
It's his wife's maiden name.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
his wife's name. Yep. hmm
So much for historical black college.
I mean, what's your point? Because what is we doing?
Swipe over to the second slide. I wanted to see if you've seen that before.
Like, we ain't about to just
Uh,
slander this
oh yeah,
man. Where's the
yeah,
facts?
Because not too much on
You
HBCUs.
you
Not too much on
you seen that
yeah,
picture
HBCUs. I'm
before,
sorry.
bro? Like,
yeah. No, I hadn't seen
Ain't
it
no such
before,
thing as a HBCU.
but it
You a
don't
lie.
surprise me.
no.
Where is the facts?
Hey, especially when you see how they when a lot of how a lot of those HBCUs started, when you understand the origin of them,
Exactly.
then bruh, you spitting.
Well, no, I
Fucking
will give you. I
Wilberforce.
will
Y'all got
give you.
Flashbacks.
none of these motherfuckers
No,
HBCUs. They historically
no,
white. Fuck out of here.
no, no. Not all of them are historically white. You got to know your history. Number one. Number two. I do understand the sentiments behind what is being said, but a lot of them are schools that were founded by blacks that got taken over by whites
No, that's a
funding.
fact. That's a
Because,
fact.
like, I know with my own history at Tuskegee, it's like everybody credits Booker T. Washington for founding Tuskegee, but it's really Lewis Adams who founded Tuskegee because he founded Tuskegee Normal School, and they sent Booker T. Washington down here, down there to, like get funding and all of that. But Tuskegee Normal School was already a school, and what it was is kids were going, or people were being educated. They just didn't have to pay because they would build. They were learning specific life skills, and they would build during the day and go to school at night. Continue.
Right. So, I agree with what Joseph is saying, right? So not all of them, but a lot of them, right? A lot of them. Howard was founded so that uh, the mixed kids from the plantations, slaves, that they went to send to school. That was the etymology of Howard, right? Um, but so Martin Luther King Sr., Boule, his job, gatekeep black society. Okay. Now, um, like I said, we did a whole cook. Yo, if anybody wanna get into the whole Boule and the history of the Boule, that shit is deep. And so oddly enough, the Boule has so the purpose of the Boule, this is what I'm gonna tell you. Military intelligence, where they were looking for proof that the communists were working with black people in the South, right? So they went, they got they got these people from what was it Psi Sigma Phi, whatever the fuck the Boule shit is, right? Who had started this little fraternity, and it was supposed to be like the well-to-do in black society. So they went to them, and they had them go spy on other black people. Okay, and the military dude, I forget his name. I'm gonna have to go back to the cook and look at my. I'll have to look at my notes. I gotta find my notes.
I
But
love how you be talking in absolutes, like you was there, enemies, and you was with them.
your feelings hurt already?
No,
I
you
ain't even
remember
started.
there. I was about to say we did a whole cook on how they really like the military really tried to like paint the African American community as like leaders with this whole communist thing. That's why
Mm-hmm.
they felt that's why that was their excuse with having the Boule and having the intel that they had because they're the communists so we got to watch them. When in actuality
Mm-hmm.
it's just we need to watch them because we want to watch them.
Hey,
So,
Joseph, and then to add to that too, whenever you do look at these organizations that are being targeted specifically by the FBI and the CIA at the time are going to be these um what communist leaning organizations. However, when you look at these organizations, they're being funded by the CIA and the FBI, which
mm,
is wow.
all
And
right.
also a lot of them. Last point is they weren't communists. They were black affiliated organizations or black founded organizations that were
Labeled.
put in place to well put in place to elevate the community. Like when you look at the different sororities and fraternities and all these different organizations, that was their initial, like reason for being founded. But they did not know when they were joining these organizations that these things would be used against them. Because case in point, like if you look at the sororities, AKA was supposed to be stopped. AKA was only supposed to be the girls who founded it, and that's it. That's the whole reason you have Delta Sigma Theta. You get what I'm saying? They were like, "Oh, nah, we want more girls to come in and da da da." And some of the founding members of Alpha Kappa Alpha are also the founding members of Delta Sigma Theta.
All right. So, um, yeah. So the military weaponized the Boule members to spy on the black people who create uprisings in the South, right? And so, because the military was like, "Yo, the communists are working with the black people to cause insurrection and this, that, and the other," and so the black spy actually went over there. I forget his fucking name. Matter of fact, the homeboy Jay Forza was like, "Yo, in the military, they actually got a plaque of this dude on the fucking wall, right?" But it was a military dude in the Boule, and he reported back to the military. He was like, "Yo, the black people, they not working with the communists. They just being treated wrong, and they fucking pissed off, right?" And so the military was like, "Nah, fuck that." And so he just invented a communist connection, right? But this was back in like the 19. This is like back in 1917. Okay, so this was early Boule. Okay, but Martin Luther King's dad was Boule. All right. Oddly enough, you want to hear a quick story? With Martin Luther King's dad. Um, First things first, his name was not Martin Luther King, and neither was his son. Okay, his name was Michael King, and his son's name was Michael King Jr. Um, and so see, Martin Luther King Jr. was born in 29. In 35, Michael King Sr. changed his name to Martin Luther, right? Um, After the fucking the dude from the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman Empire, right? Martin Luther, you know, the one that came with like the 95 Theses, and instituted supposedly the fucking reformations in the Catholic Church, the created the Protestant Church, Martin Luther. So he changed his name to Martin Luther after that Martin Luther, and started going by Martin Luther King. He changed his son's name to Martin Luther King Jr. All right. So their names were actually Michael King Sr. and
I
Michael
need to
King
see an
Jr.
authenticated birth certificate.
Actually, on his birth certificate today, it says Michael King because they never legally changed their names.
Where is that?
They just started going by, look it up. They just started going by Martin Luther King. They never legally changed their fucking names.
Ain't nobody gonna say nothing bad about Miss Jenkins. Ain't nobody gonna say nothing
I
bad about Miss
know.
Jenkins.
I know. I know. It's tough.
Bethune Cookman?
Tough. Bethune Cookman, what?
A lot of history there.
Oh, yeah. So, start with that. His name was Michael King. They changed it to Martin Luther in 35, both of them. Now, quick side note. Let me tell y'all, this is a quick side note. This ain't got nothing to do with the story for real, but I thought this was interesting. Where is it at? I had it pulled up. Where the fuck is it at? Oh, here we go. Check this out. Oh shit. So this is just a quick aside because I thought it was funny. In 1969, actor Samuel L. Jackson was expelled from historically black Morehouse College for locking board members in a building for 2 days in protest of the school's curriculum and governance. Included in this group of people who were held hostage was Martin Luther King Jr.'s very own father, Martin Luther King Sr. In 1966, during the height of the Civil Rights Movement, Jackson enrolled at the historically black Morehouse College in Atlanta, the alma mater of Martin Luther King Jr. In 1968, when Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated, King's body was brought to Atlanta to lie in state at Spelman College, the historically black women's school adjacent to Morehouse. Jackson attended King's funeral as one of the ushers, then flew to Memphis to join the Equal Rights Protest March that changed the way he thought. I was angry about the assassination, but I wasn't shocked by it. I knew that change was going to take something different. Not sit-ins, not peaceful coexistence. He stated in an interview with Parade about his reaction to King's death. In 1969, as mentioned before, he and a group of activists, Morehouse College students, held the college's board of trustees hostage, demanding that changes be made in the curriculum of the school and stating that they wanted more blacks on the governing board of the institution. Morehouse eventually gave in and agreed to change, but Jackson was expelled for his actions. Y'all hear that? So Sam Jack and some other activist students held the board of trustees hostage because the curriculum was trash and there weren't enough blacks on the fucking board. It was being ran by fucking white people. And this was in 69 after King got assassinated.
It makes sense, like when you look at the upper echelon, quote unquote, um, HBCUs. Howard, Morehouse, and Spelman are still our top three, which were all predominantly founded and ran by Caucasians. To this day, they are still considered the who's who and fufu shishi of HBCUs. Tuskegee, which was founded by people of color, ran by people of color. Um, we are up there because we're top five. Sometimes we hit top three depending on the year, but we never get the accolades. And I feel like it's just because of what you just explained. Because even when you talk to alum of those who have graduated from those three institutions, it's a different sentiment as opposed to those who have graduated from Tuskegee because we have a down home feeling. You get what I'm
Hey,
saying?
can I add
Because
to
we were
that,
always,
Joseph?
mm-hmm,
And um, I'm from North Carolina, right? Like, so you know, the HBCU thing, I'm pretty familiar with, right? Um, about half my family is Aggies. You feel me? So, understanding where a lot of these HBCUs started out as agricultural and technical institutions to, facilitate
facts,
that. You feel me?
facts.
For that economic growth, right? But um, adding to Linnell's point, of course, and then what you're also seeing is the changing of the times, and then the neglect, and then in the neglect being intentful. Yeah, because Shaw down here, not just Shaw. There's another HBCU down here as well, Livingstone, I believe.
Central. Oh, okay.
North
Livingstone,
Carolina
yeah.
A&T.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Central, the A&T Central, Livingstone, Shaw.
Mm-hmm. Agricultural. You feel what I'm saying? So y'all spent 'em.
All right. Um. So yeah, that's pretty wild. So Sam Jack actually got kicked out of Morehouse for holding the board hostage with MLK's dad on MLK senior on it. That's pretty interesting. All right.
Okay,
So
so I looked up the birth certificate. All right, that's one thing. All right, come on.
all right. So you cool now, Jamila? His
I'm a,
name is
you
his
know
name
what?
should be Michael.
I'm gonna be on get top. Like, come on, because don't just be telling me that somebody didn't change and they not who they is without coming with it.
She
Cause
said source up.
yeah, like
Bruh, I know,
don't
right?
you not about to change. I didn't sing
You're
songs.
not
I
gonna
didn't
say nothing
mark.
bad
You know what I'm
about
saying?
Miss Jenkins, okay?
Come on
We
now.
not we not
I
doing
be
that.
doing out here doing projects and all kind of
Yo,
stuff. Oh.
I know, right? I know. All right, here we go. So, um, understanding that his dad is Boule, right? And so what we see is that early on, so he was born in 29. His name was changed at fucking in 35. That's at the age of 6 or 7. His name was changed, right? Um, that indicates to me that his dad had a plan for him, right? They changed, right? Um, and so you hear the story about him going to college. So he went to Morehouse at 15, right? And so they're trying to give you the illusion that um, my man was super smart, right? He went to college at 15, right? Um, now, is it any surprise that the college he went to at 15 was the one that his dad is on the board of trustees at? All right.
Wait a minute. I thought he was an exceptional scholar who had exceptional scores. Who we're not doing that. He didn't he take the SATs and he had like exceptional this and that and this and that?
Hey,
No.
Joseph, my pops had me reading a scholarly work that Martin Luther King had wrote on Mithraism, and so it's like, you feel me? Like, you feel what I'm saying?
You ain't even said nothing.
Wait.
Yeah, I thought it was just me.
Yo, I'm fucking dead, yo.
Keep going, just a bull.
All right, so
Yeah.
basically, myth.
Goddamn Geneva.
So basically, what happened was Joseph was making a satirical point on him thinking that Martin Luther King Jr. was supposed to be some type of upstanding scholar, right? And then I brought in a example of where growing up, my pops had me reading some of his papers. One of his papers was on Mithras, and that's a whole nother story. So basically, I was saying,
A
you
story
know,
we know nothing about. Nigga, elaborate.
yeah,
No, don't elaborate. We got to move on.
yeah, I ain't want to divert. My bad. I'm me for it to
All
go over
right.
y'all heads.
Nah, that's cool, bro.
No, you
All
just
right.
ain't saying shit. Talking about something, you know what I'm saying? No, nigga, we don't.
God, Jamila. No, but
No,
wait.
sorry.
Last point though. But no, like I've been. So growing up, I've been different people. The people I was most popular for being as a child during the Black History play was Jesse Owens, Martin Luther King, and Benjamin Banneker. I know all three of their stories frontwards and backwards. And that's why I'm like really like I'm joking, but I'm serious. Like I really thought Martin Luther King was like this exceptional scholar who finished high school early, who knew all this stuff, and he's literally just been a child prodigy, which catapulted him into being who we knew him to be.
I get you, man. I know. Again, we were all fed this, bro. That's why we going slow. I'm going slow for a reason, right? I'm going slow for a reason. Okay. Um. So yeah, but again, it's no coincidence that he got accepted into the university at 15. That his dad was on the board of trustees. Let's not overlook that. Okay. Um. All right. So Um, he goes to college. Goes to Morehouse. Then he goes to I think it's called Crozier Divinity School. All right. Um, and then he goes to Boston University for his PhD. Okay. Um, yeah. All right. So he becomes a reverend at Crozier and a doctor at Boston University. Okay. And then he kind of he starts to become a preacher. All right. So got a little clip about his education. Check this shit out.
The first public sermon that King ever gave in 1947 at the Ebenezer Baptist Church was plagiarized from a homily by Protestant clergyman Harry Emerson Fosdick entitled Life is What You Make It, according to the testimony of King's best friend of that time, Reverend Larry H. Williams. The first book that King wrote, Stride Toward Freedom, was plagiarized from numerous sources, all unattributed, according to documentation recently assembled by sympathetic King scholars Keith D. Miller, Ira G. Zepp Jr., and David J. Garrow. And no less an authoritative source than the four senior editors of the Papers of Martin Luther King Jr., an official publication of the Martin Luther King Center for Nonviolent Social Change, Incorporated, whose staff included King's widow Coretta, stated of King's writings at both Boston University and Crozer Theological Seminary, quote, judged retroactively by the standards of academic scholarship, his writings are tragically flawed by numerous instances of plagiarism. Appropriated passages are particularly evident in his writings in his major field of graduate study, systematic theology, close quote.
But now this is too much. Okay, I've never said that before, but this is too much. You mean to tell me his whole life was a lie? Like the entire thing?
Bruh.
Why should we believe this person that was just on the speaker? We don't know that man.
We don't, Jamila. I'm with
Exactly.
you.
Don't
We
just
don't know
give
that.
in. Where is the black facts?
Hey yo,
Oh, now it's about the black facts, huh?
hey yo, it's cool. So, um, yeah. So apparently, in what was it? In '91, um, they actually in 1991, it was like a panel at Boston University. They got together and reviewed King's thesis papers, and they concluded that they admitted that they admitted the plagiarism, but said there was no purpose in revoking his degrees. So this happened in '91, well after he was dead. It was like, yeah, we looked at it. He plagiarized, some of that shit, but there's water under the bridge. We ain't even gonna fuck with it now. So apparently he plagiarized. Let's see, when he was at seminary school, he plagiarized a thesis from Edgar S. Brightman. That's what his thesis was plagiarized from. When he was at Boston getting his PhD, he plagiarized from Walter Marshall Horton and Dr. Jack Boozer for his PhD thesis. Apparently, one section contained 49%. Let's see, in one of the sections, 49% of the sentences in the section contained 5 words or less of King's own words. So he pretty much just lifted like the whole goddamn section. All right. So, like I said, I went through.
Also,
Go ahead.
that's not the uncommon thing.
I'm not.
At many HBCUs, the saying goes, you'd rather cheat than repeat.
Yeah, if
C's
you ain't
and
cheating, you
D's
trying.
get
Yeah,
degrees.
man. You know what? When I was in school, what they said: if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. When test day came, when in doubt, look about. God damn it! If you can't think, look on the chink. You know what I'm saying?
Wow,
You know what?
that was
Hey,
I'm
big.
gonna
yo.
think of it.
That was a lot.
Yeah,
That was
I'm
a lot.
telling
Something.
you.
God damn, bro.
Yeah. I'm just telling you. You know what? That sounded a lot. Yeah, that's interesting. Never thought about that. But yes. Um, when in doubt, look about. But yeah. So at this point, um, he cheated. So his name ain't Martin Luther. He cheated his way through divinity school, and he cheated his way to his doctorate. So is he really Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. or is he just Michael King Jr.? I don't know. I thought that was funny. Um. So yeah.
I just want to say I don't think everybody should be so shocked about this particular new finding because they gave us a holiday. You got to
And
think about
that's my point. That's what remember when I brought up earlier about when something is so readily available and promoted, it's probably some bullshit. And then when you look at um, the 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 voluminous um, nature of which his name is thrown around and how they use it, um, yeah, that right there lets you know it's some bullshit with it. But
I mean, the
again,
holiday that shared with the Confederate general, like
hmm
that was that was just wrong.
hmm so again, I want to repeat. I've been through all of this information. And even going through all of this information, I still have a positive image of them, and I'll tell you guys why at the end, like when we get there. All right. Um. So just to recap, Dad's Boule, and we know Boule are gatekeepers in Black society. He changed him and his son's name from Michael to Martin Luther in '35. All right. And so Martin Luther King didn't do that shit to himself. His dad did that shit, right? Um. he was admitted into into the college. So he went to college at 15. Um, just so happens it was the college that his dad was on the board of trustees for. So, you know, um, the evidence. Looking at his writings right now, you can see that a lot of his thesis was plagiarized. Right. Um, and so now we're into um, him as an organizer. And so what it looks like, because so I think when you look at the plagiarism in Boston University, apparently the plagiarism was pretty fucking blatant. But the thought process is that Boston U, being a liberal university, right? Um, I'm assuming had professors that were on team fuck shit. Because what it's looking like now, I gotta say, at this point, it's looking like he was being groomed for what was about to happen. Okay, he was being groomed for what was about to happen. Like all of this was about grooming him, changing his name, going to college early, becoming a pastor, and all that shit. This was him being groomed for the task that he was going to undertake. Okay, that's what all this shit is about. So remember, we started. The whole point um, is the communists have an agenda, right? And so, in order to carry out the agenda, they need people. They need people. And if you can't find somebody, what do? You groom somebody. And so they took one of their bootlegs, and they had them. And so they identified his son at the age of 7 and started to groom him.
Lionel, I have something stupid to say.
What's up?
It's not stupid.
Okay, so you're talking about the communists and them grooming somebody and needing the figure and this, that, and the other, and how Martin Luther King forged all of his stuff and everything. I just remember teaching my kids that Martin Luther King and Anne Frank were the same age and they were both born in 29. And just with you talking, I just went to go look at certain stuff, and there's a lot of people who believe that Anne Frank's diary
Yeah, it was a
was not
forgery.
real.
Yeah, it was a forgery. It
That
was
was a
written.
forgery.
Yeah, it was written by a soldier, like a sergeant or some shit, like a Nazi sergeant or some shit.
Was she
It
even
was just,
real?
No, she
well,
wasn't real.
yeah, I think she was. Some people say no,
Not
she
Anne
wasn't.
Frank too.
Well, but that's what I thought was kind of interesting. That okay, well, Martin Luther King's life was apparently a fraud, and apparently this girl's like could people are speculating that her life was also a fraud, and they were the exact same age, born the same year, everything, but they make it seem like Anne Frank and Martin Luther King were born worlds and generations apart
Mm-hmm.
from each other. But hell, Betty White was older than both of them.
Mm-hmm. That's that.
Okay.
No, what Shan just said, at this point, what the fuck is real? What is? Because my whole life is a lie right
Well, it ain't nothing that Linnell's saying right now.
now.
No Solomon slander.
Yeah. All right. All right. We're gonna get through this one, guys. Don't worry about it. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna come out stronger as a people. Okay. Um. So so we get through his education, right? Well, let me put it like this: we get through Boston U. Okay. Now, Jamila, you might want to look this one up.
I ain't looking up shit. Post a link at the top.
I got you by
You might
now.
want to look
What
this
you
up.
want?
All right.
Damn.
Um, look up
What? Wait a minute. Hold on. Time
Highlanders.
out. What? See, this is what happened to us in the first place, sister. Okay, you
Who
got to
me?
learn how to
Who me?
stick. Yes, we got to learn how to stick together. Okay.
Hell no, you doing right, Robin. Keep it up.
My
Yo.
bad, Jamila. My bad.
All right. Look up Highlander Folk School. The Highlander Folk School. All right. So the Highlander Folk School was it was a place in Tennessee, I believe. It was it was a kind of a class put together by a guy named Miles Horton and Don
Yes.
West.
Yes.
All right. And the Highlander and Miles Horton was the Tennessee leader of the Communist Party, and Don West was the North Carolina leader of the Communist Party. And so if you look up Martin Luther King Highlander Folk School, you'll see a picture of him at the Highlander Folk School attending the meetings with Miles Horton and Don West. All right. So he was there. Andrew Young was there, right? A number of his people were there. Okay. So he was educated by well-known communists at the Highlander Folk School. Okay.
What did you want me to look up about it?
No. This is just for Jamila because
Oh,
did,
okay.
did you find the picture?
I didn't see the
You
picture
see,
yet, but I
there's a picture.
found.
If you go to oh yeah, and Rosa Parks was there too. My bad. Rosa Parks was definitely there. Go to you have to probably have to go to DuckDuckGo and you'll see uh you can find a picture of King there. If you can't, then I'll go and I'll pull one from a video that I got.
It's on
But
Google.
hmm but yeah, he's there. All right. So he's being educated by communists, right? um Joseph, you're familiar with Bayard Rustin?
Yes.
Bayard Rustin joined the Communist Party in 1936. Anybody who doesn't know who Bayard Rustin is, he was one of King's speechwriters and advisors.
Shout out to
That's
the
early.
team.
And he was also a member of the Rainbow community, definitely. But yeah, he was a member of the communist the young communist leaders in 36. I think that's when he was in like college or some shit or high school. No, because he was a little older, yeah. So he was a member of the young communist leaders in 36. So he was a well-known communist. Um, okay. So King, Andy Young, and Rosa Parks attended the Highland Folk School, right? Being ran by Miles Horton and Don West, who were the leaders of Communist Party in Tennessee and North Carolina. Bayard Rustin, King's advisor, right? And he actually co-founded the SCLC with King, and he was a communist. He had been a communist for a very long time. Okay. Um. So Stanley Levinson was King's speechwriter. He also handled his finances. He did his taxes, right? For better or for worse, you would refer to him as King's handler. So he was the one who set up all the stuff, right? So just like the NAACP was not a black organization ran by black people, neither was the SCLC. So Stanley Levinson was the one kind of helping them get the funding, all that shit. Like he organized the funding, of which a lot of it came from the Rockefellers, like Rockefeller Foundation.
It's really been your own man's the whole time. Like, that's crazy.
Somebody talking?
Yeah, what's going on?
Hey
Oh,
Solomon.
damn, my shit went on fucking mute. God damn.
I
My
thought it
bad.
was me. I was like,
What's the last?
what?
What's the last thing y'all heard?
Go back about 5 minutes.
Joseph's comments. Joseph's last comment.
No, what's the last thing y'all heard me say?
Was me talking.
Oh no, what's like? What? You know what the last thing I said? Did y'all hear what I said
No, we
about?
didn't.
Oh, about Bear. So Bear Rustin. You heard about Stanley Levinson?
Yes, he was with Snake. Yeah.
No Stanley. Did y'all hear about Stanley Levinson? We talked about that. No.
Just
Refresh.
repeat it, bro. Just go ahead.
All right. So Bayard Rustin was the co-founder of the SCLC, right, with King. Stanley Levinson, right? Listen to the name Levinson. You get where I'm going. Um, was King's speechwriter. He was also the finance man behind the SCLC. He also did King's taxes. In other words, he was King's handler. Stanley Levinson and Bayard Rustin were King's handlers. Okay. All right. Um, so when I look at this, it seems to me that he had been handled all through college. So at Morehouse, because his dad was on the board of trustees, I'm sure they just kind of passed him through. When he got to seminary school, right? All that fucking plagiarism. Again, he's being looked after. They just kind of passed him through. He get to Boston U, right? They pass him through because he's got handlers. He's got people helping him with his speeches, all of that shit, right? He's being looked after. All right. So Stanley Levinson was his handler. He organized everything. So in the original March on Washington, right, King wasn't supposed to be there. All right. Um, it was organized by somebody else, and King got put on the fucking on the docket. All right. How did he get put on? His handlers got him put on. Right. He wasn't supposed to speak. All right. All the marches and all of that shit, he didn't organize it. Stanley Levinson did. All right. I think Nomad posted the picture in the Discord with King and the Rothschilds. Right. That's where a lot of the funding was coming from. Right. The SELC. Right. Um, and the SCEF. Right. I think that's the Southern Conference Education Fund. Right. Um, oddly enough, Fred Shuttlesworth um, was another communist, and he was a part of the SCEF. And Carl Brayton. So Fred Shuttlesworth was one of King's homies, who was a communist. Um, there was a white guy named Carl Brayton, who was the field director for the SCEF, who was also involved in an organization called Fair Play for Cuba. Go figure, right? Go figure. All right. Um. So when we get to what did they do? What was the point of what they were doing? All right. Anybody ever heard the name Julia Brown? So Julia Brown was a black woman who worked in a bunch of different civil rights organizations. So check out Julia Brown.
I'm Julia Brown. For 9 years, I was a member of the Communist Party. serving as an undercover agent for the FBI. During that time, I learned that the communist conspiracy had been planning and working for years to bring violent revolution to America. It was to be a communist revolution, but the great majority of the American people would not be allowed to realize that until it had already happened. If all goes according to the communist blueprint, Americans will believe that the chaos and violence has something to do with civil rights. Our enemies were quick to find our weakest point for their attack. They knew that racial differences could provide them with an excellent wedge to divide our people. Their strategy simply has been to keep hammering on that wedge, to drive it deeper into our social structure, to open all wounds that have long since healed, and deliberately to create new ones wherever they can.
So she was she was actually a secretary, I think, at the SCLC, worked for Martin Luther King, spying for the FBI. She was a fucking agent, right? And you can hear the way she talked. Like, she actually wrote a book about this shit. You can hear the way she talked. She is unapologetic in the way in what she believes, right? She is a fucking agent. So what she's saying is that um, the people that the civil rights movement was being directed by communists, okay? That the communists were using black people, right, to enact the goals that they wanted, okay? Um, so one of the so then the question becomes, okay, well, what's the strategy of of the communists, right? So because the thing is, all right, now let's understand this. So now we got to do some unpacking. This isn't about communism. Communism is a tactic to get control, right? So who's really orchestrating these people? It's the same people that run the world. When we talk about the globalists or the elite, all of this, that's who's organizing this shit. Communism is just a fucking name on a group of people, right? It's a tactic that they're using to install a type of fucking structure. Get what I'm saying? So the people that are really doing this are the elites, okay? So they're trying to move the country. So it's important when you're instituting communism that you got to get, it seems antithetical or kind of oxymoronic, but you got to separate people. You have to use people's division in order to get them to come together so that you can rule them all at the same time, right? So at the time, black people were like their own little fucking, we had our own fucking world, right? You can't, we had our own fucking businesses. We had our own fucking hotels. We had our own churches. You get what I'm saying? Own schools. We had a country within a country, okay? And you can't have that in communism, right? You got to have all the people kind of together, ruling them as one people, right? And so the point is, so they used black people, right? And they used the civil rights movement, the quote unquote civil rights movement, as a way to gut the black economy. Okay. So the first thing they had to do was gut the black economy, which is what integration did. Right. So it took away all the black businesses. Because remember, what they were talking about was, yo, we want to sit at white people's counters. We want to ride on white people's buses, this, that, and the other. Integration effectively ended the black economy. Right? There was an entire green book dedicated to black businesses. Because when you're on the road, you're driving about, you can't go to everybody's shit. So it's a book with all these black businesses in it. And so you go to a black business when you're traveling, right? It was our economy. The money came from outside of our community because we went and worked in factories, we went and worked for white people, we did all kinds of shit, and we brought that money into our community, into our ecosystem. And that money comes into our ecosystem and then gets circulated. Kind of like what we talk about the small hats do, right? The money gets circulated. And so that in itself is power. That's where you get all the Black Wall Streets and the fucking Rosewoods and the Wilmington Delawares and it was a whole bunch of fucking cities like that throughout the fucking country
Did you
because
mention
we
the
couldn't go nowhere else. Huh?
Did you mention the name of the book? Is it called The Green Book?
The Green Book, yeah, the Green Book. Hmm?
I ain't know if you said it or not. I wanted to make sure that that was the name. That wasn't.
Yeah, yeah, it's called the Green Book, right? So there was an entire economy. So it's a country within a country, and so that was the good part. Now motherfuckers did have problems with white people, but you best believe.
Also,
Oh,
that's
go
how
ahead.
they built the interstate system. Just wanted to throw that back out there.
Mm-hmm. So you best believe, like there were problems with white people, but black people weren't that fucking passive, right? When there was like more times than not, if there was a problem, it got fixed. Dude, we had a lady in the room earlier talking about how she was in Arkansas. I forget she said the name of the town in Arkansas, but she was like, "Yo, some white guys in the town um killed a black person. The white guys got arrested. Nigga, the black people in town went to the jail, got the white dudes out of fucking jail, and fucking lynched their ass. Now you seen that shit opposite in the movies, but nigga, she was like in Arkansas, nigga, they wasn't going for that shit. Know what I'm saying?
I'm from Arkansas. I ain't never heard that. That's interesting.
Yo, it was like Carterville, or it was in southeast Arkansas. She told me the name of the fucking town. It was Taylorville, Carterville, or something like that.
That's
But
wild.
that was kind of like hey Lynell, hey everybody.
What's
It's
up,
kind
Shane?
of with the Black Wall Street, before it got burnt down, those black men, they went over to the white side demanding for them to release the boy that they claim had R-word the white woman.
Mm-hmm.
That was a very common thing. Like when one
Yeah,
go, we all go. And nah, you're not just gonna be lynching and killing people and you're not gonna answer for that. Nah,
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so it may have happened, but it wasn't no, yo, we did it and that's it. No, no, no. We all got guns, bro. We gonna shoot it the fuck out. Like I hear lots of stories. Dude, I was in the fucking I was at the chiropractor's office, right? And I was sitting next to this dude. Um and he just got to talk to him. He was one of them dudes that talked to everybody. And he was talking about how um he came to Chicago when he was 4. He was like, "Yeah, we had to get out of there." My what did he say? He said, "What happened?" His mom, I think his mom had fucked up a white person because somebody tried to do like somebody tried to do something to his mom. His mom fucked them up, and then they had to leave. Right? So they said they was down like Mississippi somewhere. He was like, "Yeah, all I remember when I was 4, because they came to Chicago looking for him." He's like, "I just remember hiding in the house and seeing him like outside." But my mom, something happened to where he's like, "Yo, my mom, somebody tried to do something to my mom. My mom killed him or something. Came home, his granddad had to hide us and then snuck us to Chicago." You know what I'm saying? Like that was a common thing. Judge Joe Brown tell a story about his dad and his uncle. Um, for think so some I think it was a sheriff. I heard Judge Joe Brown talk about a sheriff shot his dad's brother. His dad and his dad's other brother went to the sheriff's house cut the wife's hands off, and killed the sheriff, and then motherfucking left town. Like, yo,
Wait,
like that
what?
shit was common.
Straight gangster.
Yo,
Not. Oh
yo,
my God.
yeah. Because the thing is, the wife had did something. Yeah, the wife had did something to the brother. You know what I'm saying? She had did something. She was part of it somehow. And so they cut the wife's hands off and killed the fucking sheriff, and then they had to leave. So a lot of black people ended up in the North because they wasn't with the bullshit. You know what I'm saying? So yo, the I say all that to say, um, the black people had, like, it was a country within a country. And in order for them to institute communism, they had to break that shit down. And so they used a bunch of tactics to break up the fucking to break up our communities and shit. Because we had communities, right? And so one of them was integration. And one of the chief tools of breaking down black communities was our homie here, Martin Luther, or Michael, if you want to call him, whatever you want to call him. All right. And so that's one of them things that's kind of important to understand. Um, and so when we look at how, and so again, we're looking at communist tactics, right? And so all these people, like they went to communist training schools. So communists are funded by capitalists. Understand that, okay? Communists are ran by fucking capitalists. All right. So, um, so we're gonna look at what was the actual strategy. What was the purpose of the civil rights movement? All right. So check this shit out. So this is kind of laying out the purpose of the civil rights movement. All right. And actually, I want you, as y'all think about this, I want y'all to think about where else do y'all see this shit at, or hear about this shit at. Check this shit out.
But what is the best way to sell big government and then world government to a people like ours, historically devoted to an independent republic of limited powers? The answer is simple. In revolutionary literature, the tactic is known as pressure from above and below. It's the strategy that Colonel House laid down in his book, Philip Drew, Administrator. Deliberately create problems, and then offer only those solutions that result in the expansion of government. Create conditions so frightful at home and abroad that the abandonment of personal liberties and national sovereignty will appear as a reasonable price for a return to domestic tranquility and world peace. If those who seek world dominion can stimulate leftist mobs into violent confrontation with local law enforcement, and also provide exhaustive news coverage so that the entire nation can see and tremble, then the peaceful and freedom-loving majority can be programmed to accept a vast expansion of government powers and even a national police force, offered supposedly to end the violence. If those who seek world dominion can raise the specter of an enemy armed to the teeth with superior atomic weapons on the verge of launching a nuclear holocaust, and also offer world government as the prevention, then millions of Americans can be programmed to accept the loss of national sovereignty as our last best hope for peace. This is the meaning of pressure from above and below. To put over police state measures at home, they need chaos, crime, and anarchy in the streets. To sell the idea of world government, they need the constant threat of nuclear war. Or, as they say in revolutionary circles, the real action is in the reaction.
All
But they
right.
done it a couple of times, right? They did it most recently with the pandemic, and
Mm-hmm.
then they did it again. They did it. I remember when everybody was building the bunkers and stuff like that a long time ago. My mom said they used to do drills and stuff
Mm-hmm.
because what am I talking about? What is that? That was the cold. That's not the Cold War. What was that?
Oh yeah, that's with Russia. That's in the 80s.
No, it wasn't the 80s. My mom was a little kid.
The Cold War.
No,
Oh,
so
word.
what I just remember my mom telling me about how when she was in elementary school and stuff, they used to have to do drills and because everybody thought that America was
Oh,
gonna be bombed.
yeah. So that was like, they used to do them shits all the time when they were developing nuclear weapons and shit in like the 50s and the 60s. Um, I don't think they did it too much in the 70s, but you know what? They probably did.
Wasn't that the
But they
Cuban Missile Crisis?
Is
maybe,
that
maybe.
so? I mean, they do it all
Mm.
the time, right?
Yeah. Oh no, no, no. It's a tactic. This is not something that they just did once. This is something that they do all the time. Yo, think about nigga, think about what we just went through with COVID, right? Pressure from above, right? Was the COVID that's in China. That's it's they got COVID rampant is rampant over there, and just one Chinese person getting over here could fuck up the entire country, right? Then pressure from below was the poor people or the people that's not getting the vaccine, the unvaccinated, right? So that's the squeeze. So if you're a vaccinated person, right, in America, then you got the unvaccinated over on the left, and then the people in China on the right, and so you're just being squeezed from all sides. Get what I'm saying? So it's a tactic that they use all the fucking time. You know what I'm saying? The Black Lives Matter protests, same thing, right? The protest part was the pressure from that was a pressure from goddamn it from below, right? And so once we get into the civil rights movement, it's the same thing. Then we get to see how they created. So the civil rights movement was the pressure from below. That was the pressure from below. Okay. So the pressure from above what was going on with the government when you had Kennedy, and then when he got assassinated, you had Johnson, right? And then we'll see how it ultimately turned out. But um, let's so the Martin Luther King, his his purpose was to be the instrument and the voice and the face of the pressure from below. Okay, he was to be the pressure from below. All right. So, one of the tactics of um, one of the communist tactics, right? Um, who? Let me ask you this: Who, when you look at all them videos, what was the stereotype or the prototype of the marcher or the person in the streets? Hmm?
Now or then?
Then, so back in when we talk about Martin
Oh, they
Luther
were
King
clean.
civil rights movement, who
They
were those people? Like in all those marches, who were those? Like what
Middle aged black people.
College.
facts? They were young people. They were
That's
young
where they would
people.
recruit. Was it the Carmichael? What's the guy name from Trinidad?
Oh, Stokely
There you
Carmichael.
go, Stokely Carmichael. I said Susie. Haha. Stokely.
Yeah, I know, right?
Isn't that from Rugrats? Yeah, but yeah, Stokely Carmichael. He is a part of those people that were pushing a lot of the Black pride and the racism and getting the young kids in the colleges riled up to start
Hmm.
roots. Yes.
Yep. So check this out. So they did it here. Why? Check it out.
In 1964, a communist document taken from the Viet Cong stated,
Get the people out into the streets. Quarrels should be provoked. Youth groups are to be armed with knives and clubs, allegedly to protect themselves in a manufactured tension.
in China, as in all countries, the communist appeal was aimed primarily at students, young, idealistic intellectuals, most of whom came from wealthy families who could afford to send them to school. It was from this group that the young communist recruits came who later provided the leadership and backbone for the armed conflict to follow. In Cuba, leftist-oriented students were the vanguard of the organized street demonstrations. Once the masses were in motion, that tenuous line between demonstration and riot, between nonviolence and violence, was easily obliterated. As law enforcement officers sought to restore order, police brutality became the cry of the insurgents.
High school students, college students, young, idealistic, easily led. That's your prototype, right? That's who you saw in all those videos. In all the countries, whether you're looking at China, fucking Algeria, goddamn it, Cuba, America, civil rights, young kids, all right, young kids.
So I have I guess a question
What's up?
and a statement.
What up?
Um, so when we see pictures of them sitting on white only like restaurants or going to white only areas and they're using their stuff, which like you said, they're always young, college age kids that are doing this. Do you think a lot of those people being paid to kind of terrorize a little bit and provoke maybe a racial uprising between them and the younger white kids on the other side of town?
So, do I think that the people at the counters were being paid? Is that what you're
No,
asking?
like those young, like when you look at those photos, you see people like drinking out of a white only fountain, and the person's black. Or they were like sitting in restaurants that were white only, but it'd be like black people that went in there to go sit in that. And to a lot of people, they say that's a symbology of strength and triumph. But since we're looking at this from a different perspective, do you think those young black kids that were doing that, were they paid to purposely go to those
Oh,
white
you know
areas and
what?
do that?
No, so check this out. Um, that was a strategy, but they weren't paid, right? And so that's the purpose of getting kids, right? You want ideological kids who are willing to sacrifice. They didn't get paid. They were sent to do it, right? They were sent to do it for the purpose of stoking a reaction, right? Remember, all of this shit was to get a reaction. So as we go about the 5 steps of the 5 steps of that they follow the game plan, one of the plans is to get a reaction, right? So that you can create controversy, right? You have to create a us versus them mentality, right? And so they were intentionally antagonizing people. So remember, this is a communist tactic, right? It's to antagonize people, right? Because it made no sense, right? You're forcing people to take your money who don't want to fucking do business with you, right? That's why the business people weren't with that shit. So um the five steps, right? Here we go. Divide the people, create an appearance of popular support, neutralize opposition, precipitate mob violence, create a resemblance of revolution, right? So those things were meant to stoke people into coming out, like to get people going, right? Like, oh, look, they're beating up the little kids and this, that, and the other, so that they could use that footage on the news, right? To make it seem like, yo, people everywhere are fucking revolting. You get what I'm saying? It's everywhere, right? People everywhere are sitting in counters and goddamn it protesting. Like they made it look like it was a super popular thing when it wasn't. Because I gotta tell you, if I'm a businessman, if I own a cafe in fucking Montgomery or in Little Rock, right, or in Birmingham, why the fuck do I want my customer base fighting to go sit at somebody else's counter? If I own a bus company, which a lot of black people did, why the fuck do I want my customers fighting to get their business somewhere else? So the popularity of the civil rights movement was manufactured. Because I remember when I was in high school, I asked my grandma, I was like, yo, when during the civil rights movement, you know what I'm saying? What was you doing? Like, was you involved? This, that, and other. She was like, no, I wasn't on none of that. Right? And at the time, I was like, yo, that's fucked up. Right? And so now I understand that what they were doing worked against our cause. And A lot of it, like what we saw, was hype. It was manufactured. They made it look like it was a big thing. It was propaganda,
Well, you know, in
right?
the North, we had some similar, but we had more so of the Italians and Irish that would eventually go against us. Um, okay, for instance, I don't know if you guys remember that video of Rosewood, Queens, and it's
Hmm.
a video of the young black kid on a bike, and then these other white kids just kind of like bullying him on the bike, saying he can't ride his bike, and then this a person recording. So, looking at this from what I know now, I look at this video and I'm like, well, who the hell's just recording? You know what I'm saying? Now, who at this time period, we don't have just camera phones. This is actually a production. This is a big ass camera that is actually just following and orchestrating this attack. And if it isn't even a damn attack, is it just some script that they're playing out? Now, my family is from that Queens area, Rochdale, Roselle, Merrick, all that. And what from I understand, a lot of black families of that area, they were always middle class. They always owned their homes. So for this type of situation to happen, it's kind of like you could tell it's orchestrated because there was plenty of black families that were middle class. In fact, my families were some of the first families that owned a lot of the so-called black businesses of that area and of Queens, New York. So it just didn't make sense, looking at that Rosewood video and they were saying how look at the racial tensions and look what's going on. But it's like, wait, on the other side of things, I got family members who actually were marrying Italians though. So but in the media, this was what they were putting out, that these black kids were just being randomly attacked for just riding bikes. And I don't think that was true on the overall census.
Um,
I'm so glad that she brought up that point, as far as like, the photographs. I remember teaching an art class, and I was teaching my students basically different levels of art through photography and pictures, and recognizing voice and ideas in photographs. And I have a lot of picture books from throughout the time of history, and I often raised a lot of those questions and posed those questions to my students as well, like when these things are happening, like who is taking, how convenient is it that someone is there taking these pictures and being able to fully like illustrate what is happening? You know what I'm saying? Like it's really bizarre when you look at like these picture books and these history um lessons, and it's really crazy.
mm, so we see, um, we see King attending the Highland Folk School, which was ran by communists Miles Horton and Don West. We see his top advisor, Bayard Rustin, has been a member of the Young Communist Leaders since fucking 36. One of his homies, Fred Shuttlesworth, was a communist, and so was his associate Braden, Carl Braden. All right. Um, Rosa Parks and Andrew Young, they were with him at Highland Folk School. Okay. Um, Now when we start looking at in the civil rights movement, what was some of the stuff that they did? Right. Let's look at some of the tactics. All right, and check this shit out. Hey, Jamila, what's your favorite civil rights song? Just curious.
I don't have a favorite civil right. Like what?
Did you ask her what's her favorite civil rights
Yeah,
song?
Like
yeah,
what
hell
is
yeah.
wrong with
What's your
him?
favorite civil
Like
rights?
Hey
what?
I
yo,
don't
is
know.
there a playlist out there,
Hey,
bro?
hey, dude, she always singing this shit. Joseph, what's your favorite civil rights song? What's your favorite marching song, bro? Joseph, I know Joseph got one. What's your favorite marching song, Joseph? That's like if I ask you what's your favorite slave hymnal and shit, nigga. All right, so check this shit out. Hold on.
We
Is
shall
Joseph still?
overcome. There you go.
That's yours, Shan?
We
Interesting.
shall
Okay.
overcome. Yeah.
All right, here we go.
Cubans rallied round the slogan, Patria o Muerte. But perhaps the most widely used slogan was the one later to be used in Haiti and Venezuela, and still later in English in the United States. Venceremos. We shall overcome.
Oh hell no!
Hey, yo.
That's what the hell you
Nigga.
get. Talking
Can
about
you
some
play that
that's
one
your
more time?
favorite.
What you
Can you play
say?
it one more time?
I got you.
Cubans rallied round the slogan, Patria o Muerte. But perhaps the most widely used slogan was the one later to be used in Haiti and Venezuela, and still later in English in the United States. Venceremos. We shall overcome.
Oh man.
I
Communist
don't want to talk
chants
about
from
this no
around
more.
the
Can we
fucking
change
world.
topics for the night, please, and talk about?
It just like what is real anymore? I don't even know what's real. Am I even here? I don't
Can we
know.
talk about mermaids and dragons? I think that's more real than this. Like,
I got you. Here you go. Here you go, Robin. This
You
for
know
you
what?
right
That's
here.
probably why we should have kept the simulation theory on that damn countdown, and we should have did a cook. That's what we should have did.
right?
We right where we supposed to be, man. What's wrong with y'all? Yeah. So, here you go. I got this. This is for you, Jamila.
Popular slogan is Venceremos, the rallying cry of the deluded peasants of Cuba, Haiti, and Venezuela. Venceremos. We shall overcome is now the rallying cry of the deluded peoples of the United States.
Mm-hmm.
Lionel, I have heard black folks been called a lot of things, but never have I heard someone refer to us as diluted people.
Hey, yo. We so in
The
the
fuck is that?
hey, yo.
See what
You
James
know
said in the chat?
what he say?
You gotta read it, bro.
Those don't sound like no nigga voices. Hey, they do
They
actually.
damn
They
sure
are.
don't, James.
They are.
That sound
But if
more
I could
like
play the
them
video,
diluted people.
if I could play the video, I would. Right. But no. So this the thing. The other thing is when you look at what they did in Cuba, right? With the arms locking and marching and shit, same thing that they did in the fucking civil rights movement. Like they just
That's
copied.
wow.
They literally fucking copied and pasted the tactics from the communist revolutions in other fucking countries and brought them shits here.
But that
Copy
shit
and paste.
work in Cuba and that shit didn't work in Haiti.
It did. Castro did the shit in Cuba and came to power. What you talking about? And it worked in Algeria. And it
Okay.
worked here. And we
Okay.
finna talk about how it worked here.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. Before you get into how it works here,
Mhm.
I think I know you're going with this.
Mhm.
Because, okay, they say that there's a fight against communism, but do you think that they created communism to create this invisible enemy that they feel like they're fighting against, but yet they're actually using it to disable us?
Um. So yes. The bottom line, yes. When they talk about the fight against communism, most people don't know what communism is. Get what I'm saying? If you ask somebody what communism is, they couldn't tell you what it is, right? Um, Luckily for the people in this room, I literally went through the Karl Marx talk 10 points of communism, and we showed how the 10 points of communism fit directly with UN Agenda 21. They are the same thing. right? So again, the communist tactics are simply a tool used against us in order to control, to get us to a place where we can be controlled. Okay, that's what all this shit was about. All of this shit is about getting us to a place where we can be controlled. All right. Um. So, do we all see how the civil rights movement um is indistinguishable from communist fucking movement?
Oh yeah. Even to the fist in the air that people put up.
Mm, indistinguishable. Which is why when you think about uh where Asada Shakur, when she broke out of jail, where did she go?
That's right, Cuba.
Cuba, right? Um, and it wasn't just her; it was a bunch of black revolutionaries, right? That when they wanted to get away from the United States, they went to Cuba. Okay, they went to fucking Cuba. All right. Um. All right. Any questions so far? No,
Yeah,
we're good. What's up?
yeah. One more thing.
Yeah.
So someone that brought up a very good point because we oftentimes see what happens in the United States is very similar to what's going on in South Africa. How would you tie that into Nelson Mandela
You know
and the
what?
communism movement?
You know what? I'm not familiar with what he was doing. Was he a communist? Was he what kind of tactics? Like I don't know what kind of tactics Nelson was using. So don't give me the line.
Yeah, I don't know. Anybody familiar with Nelson Mandela and his
Yeah, I'm not too
story?
familiar with how he got down. Right.
Yeah.
It would be interesting to look though, but I've never seen people refer to what Mandela was doing, and if it was associated
But
with what's going
remember, they
on.
have the black and white system there too.
Hmm.
They just recently, now Mandela's not here anymore, but just recently pictures have surfaced on the internet of some young South African, what we would say black men or boys, because they look young, and they were swimming inside of a white only pool. And the video came out where the white guy was trying to basically kick them out the pool area because it's supposed to be white on.
Yeah, I think
So
I saw that.
you saw that, right? So
Hmm.
it's kind of like mirroring
Hmm.
what the United States oftentimes does to the black and white people here, where they always
Hmm.
constantly fighting.
Yeah, so they'd be interested to see if they started running a playbook over there, right? Because they have the same problems, right? So I wouldn't be surprised if they started running the same playbook over there. If they started to develop a South African king and shit. Um, yeah. Um. All right. So, what was the goal? Like, what was his ultimate goal? Um. Hold on, let me make sure I run through everything on this joint. I think I did. So, or what did they need him for? Okay. So they needed him um, to be, like I said, to lead the pressure from the bottom, right? He was the pressure from the bottom, okay? And so remember, the ultimate goal is more government control. That's the goal. The ultimate goal, because remember, the communists um, don't control shit. All of this shit is being funded by the elites. Okay, let's be very clear. It's all being funded by the elites. All right. I don't want no fucking I don't want no fucking illusions about who's funding all of this shit and who's directing all of it. So on the ground level, the pressure from below, they're funding King and the civil rights movement and all these different organizations to create the appearance of riots, right? So to create to give them photo ops, right? They got all these young Jewish people coming down. They got the Freedom Riders, right? Um, and just like they had agents in the civil rights movement, right? All the in the crowds amongst the black people, they had agents in the police department as well. So those scenes didn't turn bloody and riotous for nothing, right? It wasn't an accident. It wasn't, oh, it just so happened to do it. No, there were agents on both sides of the equation, and their job was to escalate the situation to where it becomes riotous.
Okay, dumb question. So, was Malcolm X part of the co- communist stuff?
I haven't
Or
seen
is that
evidence that X. Yeah, I haven't seen evidence that X was being controlled by communists.
It's not a
okay?
dumb question, but Linnell, you also got to play with the idea. If you are sitting here saying that they have this level of control dating far back as far as they did, so you can't remove that variable that he could also have been an agent. And I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just throwing a
Um,
perspective on things.
so check this out, bro. All the things I said today, and I still don't think King was an agent. We ain't got there yet, right? I told you. Um, I still hold a positive image of King, and we're gonna get there. And I don't think he was an agent, and I don't think
No,
Malcolm
I
X was an
mean,
agent.
you could recognize what he stood for. You know what I'm saying? Like, but all
Mhm.
in all, he still could have been playing a game that even he himself didn't know he was playing. Just another
Uh,
perspective. Yeah.
could, but again, my statement was I haven't seen evidence of. I'm not saying he was or wasn't. I haven't seen evidence that he was. You know what I'm saying? I can only
Fair
talk about shit
point.
that I've seen evidence for.
Fair point.
Even if you
Yeah.
connected to them folks and like,
Again, we gonna get there. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. Right? Um, okay. So um let's be clear, right? At all times, it was all kinds of agents involved in all of this shit. Okay, so it wasn't just to create. It wasn't just to set up the. Because remember, you had what's my man Stanley Levinson setting up all these events, setting up the marches, the protests, all of that shit, right? And in a lot of these instances, they were meant to turn violent, and so you had to have instigators on both sides, which ironically you see in every fucking protest. I don't know if y'all remember during the what was it, the Mike Brown protest in Ferguson? Did anybody see the reports where it was a video where the community, like the grassroots community, was out on a legit march, just trying to protest on some peaceful shit, and it was these people, right, um,
Detractors.
trying to start bullshit. They were throwing rocks at the cops and shit like that, and the real residents actually snatched these niggas up and was like, "Yo, who the fuck are y'all?" Right? Where the fuck y'all from? Y'all ain't from around here. Those were agents sent in to fucking cause chaos. They're literal agents of chaos. Literal agents of chaos. Their job is to take peaceful protests and turn them violent. And then on the other hand, there are agents within the police department because a lot of the cops really they just want to be there. They're there because they have to be there because their fucking supervisors say, hey, man, it's a march, man, go down and make sure don't no bullshit happen. So the cops are just there, right? They're not there to do no bullshit, but there are agents amongst them whose job it is to instigate violence, right? And so when you got agents on both sides, that's when the fucking violence starts. And people are sitting there fucking confused as to how this shit went so wrong. It was just supposed to be peaceful. No, motherfucker, you don't know what an agent of chaos is? Like these niggas is everywhere, right? Um, I was dude, you know what? It's so fucking it's so common in the playbook. I was looking at a protest, and it was a Canadian protest, dude. It was Canada. You know, like the Canadians don't protest shit, especially not fucking violently. It was a Canadian fucking protest. It was a bunch of old people. This wasn't even a young people Canadian protest. It was a bunch of old people, old middle class people walking down the street, right? And they were marching for something that was unfair. And if I get a second, I'm gonna try to find the video for y'all. A bunch of old middle class people. Um, and so amongst them, there was a guy marching with them, right? And he started. What did he started doing? He started like breaking windows or something. And the the uh the people marching were like, yo, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we just kind of marching, this, that, and the other, and this guy, he kept doing bullshit. They grabbed him, right? And they started trying to see who he was, because I think he had a mask on or something. He was trying to cover his face. He had a mask on. So they noticed that this motherfucker had on police issued boots, right? And so they held him and he got away. Somehow they got the police to admit that that guy was a fucking cop. They had a cop embedded in the fucking protesters, and his job was to do bullshit and make it seem like the protesters were causing fucking violence and being agitators. Same thing happened with the George Floyd shit. Who remembers the guy in the elevator? I mean, in the umbrella, walking, and he was just literally going and busting windows, bust like the he and people was like, "Yo, who the fuck is he?" And he was obviously a white dude. He was dressed in all black. He had on fucking ski mask, and he was walking around with an umbrella. Y'all, anybody remember that guy? Mm, mm, mm. Um, and
You talking
so
about the dude that was busting out the Target windows?
yes,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and people were like, "Yo, who the fuck is he?" Because it was unfair, like it was for no fucking reason. And then, um, it came out because his ex-wife's friend tweeted to her, "Hey, isn't that your ex-husband?" And she was like, "Yeah, and that motherfucker got my umbrella."
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, he was a cop. He was a fucking cop, right? So their whole purpose is to fucking instigate violence and make protesters look bad, right? And so those are the agents. That's why it's always a fucking cop car there, an abandoned cop car in the middle of the protest route. That's why it's always bricks around. It's always agents around, right? The purpose is to make it look chaotic. That's the pressure from below. That's the pressure from below to make it look chaotic, right? So anytime you show up to a march that's just supposed to be a fucking march, right? Understand, it's fucking agents in that bitch. You know what I mean? And they ain't always fucking white. A lot of times they black, because the dudes in Ferguson, they was black dudes. And the brothers from Ferguson who lived there actually snatched them motherfuckers up like, yo, who the fuck is y'all? Where the fuck y'all live at? Fuck y'all doing here? Right? So that's the chaos from below. Okay. Now, oddly enough, now y'all want to hear some delusional shit. Um, in this part, I actually had to I had to face palm on this one. With all the fucking communists um around Martin Luther King, with all the motherfuckers that he know, all the training that he had from communists, all the tactics that he used from communism, right? That were taught to him in communist school, right? Listen to what he said about communism, about communists in the movement.
And lest there should be any misunderstanding, Nobel Peace Prize winner Martin Luther King followed the example of Lenin Peace Prize winner Fidel Castro and Lenin Peace Prize winner Ben Bella and protested that I am sick and tired of people saying this movement has been infiltrated by communists and communist sympathizers. There are as many communists in this freedom movement as there are Eskimos in Florida.
Bruh. Bruh. So notice all the civil rights leaders that use communist tactics and associated with communists got peace prizes, right? They gave them peace prizes. Um, okay. So I thought that was interesting. He's like, yo, just like Fidel Castro, right? He said he's not a communist. Remember I played that earlier. Castro says, hey, I'm not a communist. Martin Luther King said, hey, I'm not a communist. Yeah, all my homies is communists. Everybody in my organization is communist. We use communist tactics. I was taught at communist schools, but I'm not a communist. Right? All right, I got you, bro. I got you. Okay. All right. What was the point? Um, so when you look at pressure from above, pressure from below, the point is extended go. So it's two things that they were trying to get to. One, to degrade the black infrastructure, right? The black community, right? To bust up to get rid of the independent black enclaves. And so for that, they used the civil rights movement and integration. They used the Highway Act when they started running highways through all these black communities, right? Taking the land through eminent domain, running the highway through it, okay, to dissipate the black power base. And then the Parks Act, where they started snatching people's parks. I mean, snatching people's fucking land and putting parks on them shits. Okay? All right. So they would eminent domain the black the black enclaves out of existence. That was their point, right? So that was part of their tactics. So all these things work together. None of them were by themselves. All of this shit worked together. Understand? They're doing all of this shit at the same fucking time. Right? It's a very comprehensive attack, and the civil rights movement was part of it. The civil rights movement was to undermine the economic base. Okay.
I said it
So
before, bro. I said it real quick. I said it before, bro. Wild, diabolic, but smart as fuck, bro.
yeah, it's a playbook, right? It's the playbook. It's their playbook. All right. It's their fucking playbook. All right. All right. So the civil rights movement was the pressure from below. All right. Now, oddly enough, so even though he had been working with Kennedy, right? So him and Kennedy were cool. Kennedy was suspicious of a lot of the people around him. Kennedy was like, "Yo, you got a lot of fucking communists around you, bro." um, One of the things was when it came out that Bayard Rustin was a communist, right? It was a real big thing, right? And so King publicly, he's like, "Oh, I didn't know this, that, and the other," and he fired him, right? Because Bayard Rustin co-founded SCLC with him, right? He fired him, right? He made a big deal out of it. Where did Bayard Rustin go after King fired him? So he left the SCLC where they were, and he just went to New York and worked in the SCLC. So he publicly fired him and then quietly rehired him in New York, right? Why? Because that's one of his fucking handlers. All right, him and Stanley Levinson were fucking handlers. Got me? So the pressure from below was the civil rights movement. The pressure from above came from the presidency. So um, remember, this shit was funded by the elites. The same elites that had Kennedy killed, the same elites that chose Lyndon Johnson to take over. Okay? So they wanted the same, well, the civil rights agenda is what the elites wanted. And they supplied the optics on TV, right? King's job was to bring the people and make the speeches and get people riled up to go out there and do the bullshit, right? And Lyndon Johnson's job was to convince Congress and lean on Congress to vote for the legislation that they needed put in. And so there are all these stories about Lyndon Johnson, because apparently he was like 6'5". He was real tall, and he would literally lean on people and say, "This what you gonna do," right? And he told them, "Yo, this is what we're doing." He literally leaned on people to get the Civil Rights Act passed. Okay, literally leaned on people to get it passed. So the pressure from below was the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King. The pressure from above was the president of the United States. And what was the ultimate outcome? Was the Civil Rights Act, all right, which expanded government fucking power, all right. So they gutted black financial bases, all right. They took land, and then they were able to expand government powers using the Civil Rights Act, right? Legislation that gives more power to the state is always the goal. Okay, always the goal. All right. Um. So if you notice, well, first of all, any questions right now before I pivot? Questions about anything that we covered so far? Nah. All right. Um. What you say, Lizzie? I wonder if Charles Manson got some of his ideas from the elites. Charles Manson was a tool of was a product of MK Ultra. He was all fucking. He was a product of the elites. The fuck. Um. All right. Real quick reset, guys. Um. It's the conspiracy cookout. The 10-4 family. We're here on Wednesdays and Fridays. 9 o'clock Eastern on Wednesdays. 10 o'clock Eastern on Fridays. Today we're talking about MLK. Was it really a communist dream? Right. The dream that he talked about, right? Was it really a communist dream, right? And
Check the
so,
Discord.
um, check the Discord. Let me see what I got. Check the Discord. Who said that? Was that Minnie Lee or was that Jamila? Who said that shit?
So,
Um, who is this?
I didn't say anything.
Oh, Minnie Lee. Who is this?
That is from Gaston, Alabama. That's where my dad is from. That's where my grandmother was raised, and that's the school that they went. My dad and my aunt went to, and those are the rallies they held every other weekend. And so for you to be like they agents of chaos, I don't believe that shit because them people was in
Who?
fear.
Wait a minute. Wait.
Black
Who's Agent of
black
Chaos?
people in the town was in fear every day living in the South. Like
Oh, wait. Hold on. Wait. Who's
I
Agents of
can't
Chaos?
agree.
No. Who's Agents of Chaos? What are you talking about?
I don't know. I came in and you said you think that like MLK was like an agent of chaos or something.
That's not what I
Oh, my
said.
bad.
The fuck?
My bad.
That's not what I said. The fuck? I'm sorry, Minnie. You still the homie. No. So, um, yeah. You got us to the beginning. Got us to the beginning. All right. Um, yeah. Any other questions though? Hey, you know what? Minnie Lee. That's a different discussion. With those pictures you posted, because the question is, where did the black people live?
They lived like in Gaston, Alabama is like divided in like by railroad track. So like
Right. So the black people had where they lived, and then white people had where they
no,
lived, right?
no, but that was at the school. That was a school.
So the school was integrated.
Yeah, they went to school with white people. That wasn't
Why?
that long ago. That is when my dad was in school. This was
Right.
not like
So,
before then.
So
So if
now,
it was like that then, imagine what it was like when my grandmother was going to
no,
school
no, no,
there.
no, no. So check this out. When your grandma, chances are, when your grandmother was going to school there. Let me think. How old is your grandma?
She's 75.
75. Let's see. That means she was born in like 50. She was born in 50. So she went post integration as well. So the
Nah, she
issue
was born
is,
in 48.
right? Yeah, that's all I was assuming. So again, so she was in high school in around 60, right? 62 or some shit, right? So that's post. That's post integration. Women's Brown versus Board of Education, right? That's like 63,
64.
64. So yeah, um, so she probably started at a black school, and you know what? Thank you for reminding me. So Um, so remember, integration is the problem. That was a product of the civil rights movement. So Brown versus the Board of Education was not about integration. The purpose of Brown versus the Board of Education was not to have your grandmother go to school with these people, right? To your point, that shit is terrifying. They didn't want to be there. The purpose of Brown versus the Board of Education was, yo, we pay taxes the same as white people. We want the funding to our schools the same as white people, separate but equal. That wasn't a problem, right? If it was truly going to be separate but equal. The problem is that it wasn't equal. They weren't getting the money. And so the Brown versus Board of Education was about black schools getting money. It wasn't about integration. They turned it into integration. They say, well, don't worry about all that. Y'all don't need your own schools anyway. Because remember, one of the tenets of a fucking community is banks, hospitals, schools, right? Churches, right? And the government buildings, right? So getting rid of black schools is taking away one of the fucking pillars of a fucking community. So they didn't want their schools taken away. They didn't want integration. Integration is the problem. Integration is the reason your grandmother was in terror. That's the fucking problem. That they were made to go to school there. All right. Now check this shit out. Um, the so when you think about the connection between um the civil rights movement, right, and the JFK, right? So when JFK was assassinated, right, there was a commission put together to investigate the assassination to see, yo, was it a conspiracy? Who did it? You know what I'm saying? Was it more than one shooter? All of that shit. So all the evidence was gathered and it was put in front of what's called the Warren Commission, right? Anybody heard of Warren Commission? All right, the Warren Commission. Okay, now the Warren Commission was chaired by Judge Warren. What's this dude's name? Um, I want to give you the whole name right quick. Um, Judge. shit. Misspelled that shit. Um, so it was Judge Earl Warren. All right, he was in charge of the Warren Commission. He was the one deciding, yo, was the JFK assassination a conspiracy? Did Oswald do it himself? Yo, he was in charge of that shit, right? Which means he had to be in on the fuck shit because they should. The Warren Commission is where evidence went to die. They ultimately said that there was no conspiracy and that Oswald did it by himself, and they kept it the fuck pushing, right? Guess what else Warren was involved in? He was the ruling judge for the Brown versus the Board of Education case, which integrated the fucking schools, right? So there you go. You got the elites putting their mans everywhere they need them. Yo, go ahead, integrate them schools. Go ahead, shut down the JFK assassination. Yo, they got them doing this thing. Not a fucking coincidence. Okay. Um.
But didn't they think that the Queen of England had something to do with Chappaquiddick and the JFK assassination?
No, she ain't shit to do with
Okay.
that shit.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Um. Okay. So, um, civil rights bill passed. All right. Um. So I want y'all to think when you all the propaganda around King, right, centers on early King. It centers on 20-something-year-old King. I have a dream King, right? It centers on bus boycott King. All right. Why? Because the bus boycott was about gutting the infrastructure or the financial infrastructure in black communities. Right? He was young, again, agitating. Bus boycott King, civil rights King. I have a dream King. Right? Nice fluffy sound bites. How often do you see um, late King, 30s King? How often do you hear sound bites from that in the mainstream? Right? You don't. All right? Because post civil rights bill King is when he started to wake the fuck up. Right? That's when he low key was going off the rails. So because they got what they needed out of him, so they used him to gut the black financial infrastructures and shit, right? Um, and they used him to get legislation passed. He had outlived his usefulness. They really didn't need him too much no more, so they would keep him around and use him for what they needed him for. Remember, his dad is still Boulay. He's still connected, right? He's still connected. His dad's Boulay. Um, he was a useful face that they would like if they need him to do something, they would still bring him out. But he started to motherfucking realize what had happened, right? He started to
Well,
realize, huh?
so you kind of saying two things though. Like you saying he was used by agents, wasn't
Hmm.
really an agent, and when he was used up, he started waking up.
Yep.
So I I guess I'm trying to I guess I'm asking you, was he? So you saying he was asleep the whole time, and then he decided to wake up after the usage from them wore off, or like
Um, I think when he had some. So this is just me speculating. Um, so if you think about the fact that he was groomed, right? So from the age he was 7, from what we could tell, they had their hands on him, telling him what he was going to be and what he was going to do. You get what I'm saying? Um, and so um, he had been occupied. And a lot of times when you got all that shit going on around you, it's hard to see. You get what I'm saying? And so I think it took that long for him to actually see, right? And so once he saw, because the thing is, all that shit culminated in some legislation, right? And so I think the sobering thing was seeing what the legislation was. He's like, he did a whole bunch of shit, right, to get the civil rights bill passed. And the civil rights bill that passed was some bullshit. You get what I'm saying? It was some bullshit. And so I think seeing that, like, yo, I did all of this. We finally get some legislation passed. He got the president to pass some legislation. And this is what we get, right? It really didn't change too much. And so I think that's the part that was sobering. You know what I'm saying? And so now you get to look back and be like, hold the fuck on, man. What the fuck just happened? Where do we go wrong? How do we not get what I was fucking trying to get? Right?
It was never for you. It was never for you to get it though. So, I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take my notes.
Um, he didn't know that. You know what I'm saying? I think he thought that, yo, it is definitely for us to get, yo, we can have these things. I think he believed that shit. You know what I'm saying? I think he actually believed that shit. And
Well,
go ahead.
it's no different. It's no different today. These different studies.
Oh shit, you breaking up, Shan? No, that's Shan. You breaking up, Shan?
Um,
Hey man,
can you
your
hear me
Wi-Fi
now?
having a dream, Shan. All right, go ahead.
Can you hear me or no?
Oh shit, no, your Wi-Fi having a dream, Shan. It's all bad. I can't hear you. That's it. Oh no, they got you. They got you. Hey Shan, you back? Let's see. Let's see if we can hear you.
I, Before she get back
Yeah.
again, like if he was used from 7 to, when did you say he
So let's say about 64.
so from 7 to, wait, you saying from 7 to
No.
64
I
is
mean
when they had his
from.
hand?
Let me see. Hold on. From 35 to 64.
Is when they took their hands off of him? Is what you saying?
Yeah. So I think the Civil Rights Act passed in like 64. Hmm?
So I guess my question to you is then who which one is the real him, from 7 to 34 or 35 to 60? Like,
So I don't necessarily think it's separate people. I think you can realize that, yo, these niggas played me, bro. You know what? I'm gonna tell you a quick story. Um, so my first job was at Taco Bell, right? Um, so I got that job as a kid. I was 15. Dude, I didn't even apply. Like my auntie um she came home one day. It was my mom's twin. She came and she was like, yo, I got you a job at Taco Bell. Like she filled out the job application for me. I didn't know shit about it. I was 15 fucking years old, right? She's like, got you a job working at Taco Bell, right? So um so that was my first job. All right. Well, no, that was my first job. That was my first kind of regular job, other than like summer programs where I worked and shit. But anyway, fast food job, I'm working at Taco Bell. It was cool. Like, I think I got to eat free food. I made some creative shit, right? So I had a couple of managers. Um, I had this one manager. He was a hood nigga. His name was, what was his name? God damn it! It was like Raheem or some shit. He was a hood nigga and shit, right? So I used to like working with him because he ain't give a fuck. Like we could do what the fuck ever. He would be in the back. He would go out smoking or whatever. He'd just be in the office sleeping or whatever the fuck, right? So one day I was working with. He was the manager, right? I was there, um, and so sometimes I worked the register, sometimes I didn't. Like most time I worked the register, somebody was there to watch and make sure I wouldn't mess it up. But anyway, he went in the back, and then these people come in, right? It was like 5 people. This dude walked up to me like, "Hey, what's going on, my man? How you feel?" It was some black people. It was like 4 of them. It was like 2 guys, 2 chicks, or whatever. They came in to get some food. It was like, "Yo, let me get 2 tacos, whatever, and some whatever." Right? He was like, "Oh shit, you know what?" And he pulled out the money to pay for his food, right? Um, so I took the money. I think he gave me like a 50. I gave him his change back. He was like, hold on, you know what? I need change for this 100. Here. Then he started motherfucking counting out. You know what I'm saying? Then he was like, all right. So as I'm putting that shit back in, he was like, wait, how many is this? You know what I'm saying? He started counting again. Then he gave me the money. He's like, wait, this. So we going back and forth in these transactions and shit, right? And so, like, whole time my man is like, he working me. You get what I'm saying? Like, he messing up like, he counting funny. Like, it's some old con artist type shit, right?
You gave them folks money away.
Huh?
You gave their
Yo.
money away.
so so check this out. Um, put the so I motherfucking we finished I finished giving them change or whatever, right? I gave my man his food, and they left. Literally, right as they was leaving out the motherfucking door, the manager come from the back, like, "Yo, what just happened? Who was that?" Right? He's like, "Oh, hold on, let me check the motherfucking register." So he checked the register. Right? He like, "Oh man, it's like $150 short. Damn, I gotta tell the general manager." So I'm feeling like shit. I'm like, yo, these niggas got me. You know what I'm saying? Like, these niggas got me. Got me. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so um I learned after that. I was like, all right, you know what? I gotta be smarter after that shit. You know what I'm saying? So I was super vigilant from then on. So to your question, am I the same dude I was before as I am after? I'm the same dude. I just learned. I'm like, yo, these niggas got me. They won't get me again, but they got me that time. See what I'm saying?
I hear you, bro. I'm gonna let you finish because I don't want to speed you up. I'm just saying, from 7 to 34, fam, you was raised by agents, fam. I can't. You know what I'm saying? That's like me asking you, like, yo, do you think change can come from inside the system? And basically, he's an
Nah.
inside the system motherfucker. To me, in my mind, that's how I look at
Yeah,
it. Like,
I get
how
you.
he was raised by them folks, bro.
So think about this. Um, the motherfucker that got shot before him, JFK, raised by them fucking folks, right? They're examples. Well, he's an example, right? And so let's look at JFK specifically. He's an example of a motherfucker raised in the system who saw that shit and was like, man, fuck this shit. This some bullshit. You know what I'm saying? And what did they do? They fucking killed him.
Yeah, but think about it. We know JFK when he became JFK. Like, but what was the shit he was doing prior to that though? That's what I'm saying. Like
Again, he was always in the system, bro. Like, dude, the way he got elected, nigga, in Chicago, the phrase was vote early and vote often. Nigga, they were literally handing out cash to vote for bro. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was inside the system, dog. He was a product of the system. him and MLK literally paralleled the shit. Both of their dads put them on the path to to where the fuck they were going. JFK only ended up president because Joe Jr. died in fucking the military. Like, he died in the military. JFK wasn't supposed to be the president. His big brother was going to be president, but he died in a plane accident. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, I'm gonna
mixing
let you.
it up.
I'm gonna let you finish, but now it'll be interesting to even ask you, like, shit, what people is inside the system that you don't feel like wasn't with the fuck shit? Because it's a lot of times you call these people coons, but this one you ain't got there yet. That's why I'm trying to let you finish. But
Hmm.
yeah, that'll just be interesting, just to have a conversation with you, honestly.
Yeah. So so um when you start, so here, just to finish off the JFK shit, right? Um both raised in the system, both of their dads pressed them into service. Kennedy's dad just pressed him a little later. Kennedy's dad didn't press him till college or till after college. Cause John F. Kennedy, he was more of a playboy party boy. He was like, hey man, I'm here to have fun. I'm here for a good time, not a long time, right? His dad was like, nah, nigga, Joe gone, you got to do it. And so, same shit. So with ML's dad was the same shit, except for he did it earlier. It seemed to me like as soon as he changed his fucking name, that was the signal. Like, all right, we got plans for you. You're going to be this. You're going to be the one. You get what I'm saying? And so they sent him to they gave him all the credentials and all the proper training. It's just that soon at some point in time he shook that shit off and was like, hold the fuck up. This is some bullshit. Right? He might have been a true believer where he actually believed the shit he was saying, and once he saw it was some bullshit, he was like, these niggas is lying. And so he started talking shit. That's when you see the speech about him talking about the that he integrated his people into a burning house, right? So that's him acknowledging that he was like, "Yo, I did some fuck shit." He took accountability for what he had did. I fuck with that. You know what I'm saying? I did some fuck shit. Now I'm gonna try to fix it. And so that's when you see him talking about the Poor People's Campaign. He's like, "Look, this country owes us fucking money. They owe us jobs. The way that they running shit is fucked up. We need to get together. It ain't just about black people no more. Because remember, the Poor People's Campaign wasn't just about black people. It was about poor people everywhere. Black, white, what the fuck ever. You get what I'm saying? And so he started working on the Poor People's Campaign. He started talking about the fucking war in Vietnam. He was like, yo, black people don't need to be going over there fighting no fucking war in Vietnam. I started to question, you know, we talk about morals, nigga. What about the morals over here? He started talking cash fucking shit. Which, if he was the same motherfucker from from his early 20s, he wouldn't have been saying that shit. So obviously, he shook a lot of the motherfuckers off. Right now, when he shook off his handlers, he got surrounded by agents. Right, so old girl that I played earlier, Julia Brown, was a motherfucking agent like a motherfucker. I should play the clip. I gotta find it. The clip when she was talking about how she was saying that Martin Luther King was trying to blackmail the government for $10 billion. Right? She said, "Oh, he's trying to blackmail the U.S. government for $10 billion." Right? It's the Poor People's Campaign. He was like, "Yo, um, y'all owe us money. Y'all owe us jobs. Y'all gotta fucking do something." All right? So he was surrounded by fucking agents. And so after he outlived his usefulness, right? So he had already delivered on the fucking civil rights campaign. They really didn't have him working on anything. So he started working on shit he wanted to work on, right? Um, he was in Memphis for the sanitation worker strike. He came up with the Poor People's Campaign, right? He was talking shit about Vietnam, right? Um, and um, what the fuck else? It was something else. It was a Poor People's Campaign, talking shit about Vietnam. Um, God damn it, it was something else. I was about to say it and then I had to call. I forget what the fuck it was. But no, he was talking cash shit. And so then the question becomes, and so this goes to the and so I parallel this with Tory Lanez. I know it's an odd fucking parallel, but to me it's a parallel nonetheless. Um, think about what happened with Tory Lanez. Tory Lanez was a part of the system, right? They invested in him. They gave him access to their media, right? They used their influence to pump him up, right? To give him a name and a brand and fame and all that shit and money. And he was like, "I'm going solo. I don't need y'all no more." Right? What they don't let you do is ride off into the sunset with the fame and the fucking fortune that they gave you after they invested all this shit in you to turn you into what they want you to be. They don't let you ride off into the fucking sunset. We talked about this. The black authorities say white supremacy breaks his tools when it's finished with them. Martin, he He thought he was about to ride off into the sunset. Like, you know what? Yeah, I did that for y'all, but I'm cool now. I'm gonna do this shit right here. I'm gonna work on what I want to work on. I got the notoriety. I got the fame. Right. He didn't have the media behind him like he did. Right. And at the time of his death, um, they say his popularity was down to like it was in the like the 70s or some shit. Right. He's in like the 70s. His popularity was in like the 70s. Okay. So he wasn't like America's darling no more. Most people thought he had outlived his motherfucking usefulness. But in certain circles, right, they still fuck with him, and he was trying to use what he could to make shit happen. But what he was trying to do went against the motherfuckers who put him on. And he was surrounded by motherfucking he was surrounded by agents, and they was really trying to replace him, right? So in FBI documents, they say they was trying to replace him with I think a Dr. Henry Pierce, right? But but his ass wasn't even in the civil rights movement, right? Ain't nobody know who the fuck he was, right? So they had a plan to replace him. You know, it was Samuel Riley Pierce. I'm sorry. So they were so there was a plan to try to replace him, right? Early on in like '64, because he had started to try to do his own thing, right? So he wasn't a very good tool anymore. Okay. So go ahead.
I don't know about that example. Like
What you mean?
I see where you going, but like, what movement was toward? Like, I guess in my mind
No,
when
it's just
I
about the
heard you,
fame.
like,
It's just about the fame. It's not about a movement. It's about what Tory was leaving his record label with, right? What was he leaving with? He was leaving with a bunch of shit that he didn't have when they got it, when he got there. He had a bunch of influence. And so this is what Chop talks about all the time. Tory's influence, his ability to draw a crowd, right? His Instagram following, right? He had that because the industry gave it to him. The record label gave it to him, right? Same thing with King. King had the influence he had because those people gave it to him. And they're not going to let you just go off and use it however the fuck you want to. Especially if what you're going to do is undermine the shit that they work to fucking do. All right?
okay, all right, I'm gonna go ahead.
Yeah. So Um, so that being the case, they'd already looked into replacing him with Samuel Pierce, right? So they wanted him gone anyway. All right. So he had already delivered. They're using what they needed him for, and so now we get to how do you get him out of here? All right. Um, he already had agents around him, and he knew it. So he had come to learn that Jesse was an agent already. So he knew Jesse was an agent, right? I don't think he knew all the agents that was around him, but he knew Jesse was a fucking snake, right? But at this time, everybody around this dude was an agent. So he went from having a bunch of communists around him and controlling him to having a bunch of agents around him when he's doing his own thing. Now the agents are there spying on him. The photographer was a fucking agent. I think his chauffeur was an agent. They had fucking Jesse was an agent. A bunch of the other preachers was agents, right? It was agents every fucking where, crawling all over the fucking place. Everybody was reporting on him. Okay, everybody, and he was dangerous at this point because he had a lot of influence, and he was doing what the fuck he wanted to do. And so that's when they decided to kill him, right? And so the plan was to kill him and install Jesse Jackson as the new fucking as the new kind of civil rights motherfucking head. And that's what the fuck they did, right? So more specifically, at the hotel, right? um at the hotel, these motherfuckers, um so they were fighting. So him and Jesse was arguing. It was a playful argument before they left the motherfucking hotel room. I think I told y'all this shit before. Before they left the hotel room, him and Jesse was having an argument, right? They're having an argument because they were going to dinner at Billy Kyle's house, right? And Martin wasn't gonna wear a tie. Okay. Um, and so they had an argument about Martin not wearing a tie, and Jesse convinced Martin to wear a tie. Well, the first thing is this: Jesse Jackson had Martin's room moved like 3 times because he was on the first floor. His room was initially on the first floor. Okay, but it's a real tough shot to get the motherfucking to get a clean shot from an elevated position from somebody on the first floor. Plus, there's always a lot of people walking around. You got cars. It's just a lot. So Jesse had Martin's room moved twice, right? He eventually got him up on the third floor. Oddly enough, is Tracy here? Tracy, you woke? Tracy ain't woke. All right, um, so he went to he got his room was 306, right? Room number 306. He was shot with a 30-06. Interesting, right? But that's just some numerology. I wanted Tracy to hear that part. Anyway, um, so he got put on the third floor. All right, and so Jesse had to argue with this motherfucker about wearing a tie. Now he needed him to wear a tie so that the sniper could spot him. So the instructions that the snipers had, was that friendlies would not be wearing ties. So you got all these motherfuckers coming out. How does the snipers know who is who? All right, everybody with a tie on, right, was a target. Everybody without a tie on wasn't a target. So Jesse didn't have a tie on. Billy Kyles didn't have a tie on. A couple motherfuckers didn't have ties on. The motherfuckers with ties on was King, Abernathy, and I think one other person had a tie on. Because apparently Abernathy and I think Andy Young, they were I think it was those three. Those three motherfuckers had ties on, right? And I think Abernathy was supposed to be shot along with King. But something happened where Ralph left out. Mark forgot his jacket. He go back in to get his jacket, right? And then he came out. Now check this shit out. One of the people that was with him when he got shot kind of retells the story. All right. So this is Billy Kyles, who was in the room with Martin right before he got shot. Now listen to what my man say as he retells the story about just kind of the last moments with Martin.
Hurry. But that gave me the wonderful privilege of spending the last hour on earth. 3 preachers in a room, Abernathy, King, and Kyle. And we spent that last hour together in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. The press is always curious, and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I say, we just talk preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together.
Y'all pay real attention to what you're fixing to hear now.
About 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out.
Thank you.
I turned around and then knocked him back on the balcony.
Listen.
So, did y'all hear what he said? We all able to make it out what he said?
Hey, can you
No?
play it one more time?
All right. Let me
He
see.
said he moved away so they could have a clear shot.
Out the way so they
Hold
can
on.
have a shot.
Yeah, I'll play it again. Hold on.
Hurry. But that gave me the wonderful privilege of spending the last hour on earth. Three preachers in a room, Abernathy, King, and Kyle. And we spent that last hour together in room 306 at the Lorraine Motel. The press is always curious, and writers, what went on? What did you talk about? I say, we just talk preacher talk. What preachers talk about when they get together. Y'all pay real attention to what you're fixing to hear now. About 5:45, we walked on the balcony, and he was talking to people in the courtyard. He stood here and I stood there. Only as I moved away so we could have a clear shot, the shot rang out. Thank you.
All right.
Now, I got a question though.
Yeah.
How do we not know that it's not altered audio where you can take the person's voice and you could put that out? I'm not saying that that's not what
No, no, no. So
happened.
check this out. He said
Mm-hmm.
this on live TV. It was like the 50th anniversary of the Martin Luther King shooting or some shit like that on NBC in front of a big ass crowd. Like there's video of this. So
Yeah,
this
but
is
how are we
hmm?
sure it's not altered audio?
Oh
You
yeah,
sure?
possible. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. 100%. No, 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 no. This is him in front of a live audience. It's like he's outside at a big ass fucking what you call it. Yeah. Oh, James said he saw it. Yo. Oh, there go James.
Yo, when I saw the speech, the video, it almost looked like that shit. Like he didn't even want to say it. G. Like he
You know,
accidentally
he
said
no, no,
that
he
shit.
definitely accidentally said it. You know what happened is he was telling the story. He was
Yeah,
reminiscing
I saw
about
him reminiscing.
yeah, he was
He got
reminiscing
real
about
comfortable, but I think
he
he slipped
did.
up. G.
He did. No, no, he
Yeah.
did.
Okay.
He told it from his perspective, right? Forgetting
Mm.
that he was a goddamn snake. And
Right.
he
Okay. I thought
accidentally
so.
let that shit slip, bro.
Yeah, it looked really weird, but yeah, to answer you, Shan, nah, it didn't look like no, manipulation of the shit. Yo, the mannerisms, everything. He was saying this shit. It's not like it's just
Yeah.
an audio. It's like a real niggas is in the
Yeah.
audience, everything.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's him. So that's Billy Kyles, one of the motherfuckers on the balcony without ties on, right? Who said they came out the room and goddamn it, he was and as Martin was talking to people in the courtyard, he says, as I moved out the way so he could get a better shot, the shot rang out.
He was sick when he said that. Man, I wish we could show like video up on here, man.
Mm.
Bruh.
Dang, like his whole demeanor
I
Bruh.
feel
changed. He was
like
like,
that
"Oh
the
man, shit, thank you. Oh fuck, I'm out of
I,
here."
if it's not altered audio, because they can do it even live. But if it's because a lot of times what you're watching live is still like a few seconds or minutes behind. But if it's not altered audio, I wonder if he was supposed to put that out as far
I
as
don't
like
think so. I don't think
disclosing.
they
So you just
yeah.
think that it's natural, but because I
No,
mean
I think he
everything
slipped.
else is planned. Everything else is um
Hmm.
that dealt with anyone at that time that was coming out saying certain things. Um, it seemed like they're very orchestrated in how they had to say things, but
Yeah, no,
now
he
he's
slipped.
natural.
No, he slipped. It was super. You could,
This was a little different. This was a little
yeah,
different, Shan, because
he
his whole
slipped.
disposition, the whole plight of it was nowhere near trying to expose any of that. This was like, let me make myself feel good. Let me connect with the crowd. Let me tell them about my
Yeah,
position. Let me reminisce. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah,
we chilling right now. You know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
And
buddy.
and and he probably told that story amongst other agents before. You know that I could see him getting
Absolutely.
uncomfortable for the fact that he repeated that
Hmm.
around other agents. Several times.
Yeah, it was a whole
Bruh.
different
I'm
thing.
not
Like
buying it. I'm not buying
All
it at all.
right.
Nope.
Yo,
Shit,
that's
you know I fuck with you.
I'm
I'm
not
telling
buying
you,
it. I'm
man.
not buying that it's just
yeah.
a futile a slip. No, I'm not buying it. I think he knew exactly what he said. He just didn't. He just felt embarrassed that he had to say it like that in front of everybody. I
Mm.
So
don't buy it.
so you do buy the idea that he might have conspired or was in on it.
You said
To,
conspiring me.
yeah, like conspired, like as an agent. Are you
Yeah,
saying
I'm not saying he's not an
you
agent, but
don't buy
I'm
that it
not
was
buying that
a
that
Freudian
speech.
slip?
The speech he gave was just oh, he was just getting comfortable
Oh,
and he just
you think
slipped.
he
I'm
had
not
to
buying
say it
that
like
because
signally?
he is trained. He's a trained agent, and I'm not buying that he broke character in that moment. I'm not buying it.
So you know what?
All right, fair enough.
So is he is he a trained agent? You know what? He was apparently because there was a book came out that exposed him for being a Memphis police informant. So he was already an informant, right? Kind of like how fucking Al Sharpton and all them niggas, they was all informants and shit, right? So he was already a fucking informant. Um, you know what, man, Shan? I don't think he planned to say that shit. He was telling the story. I want you to watch the video so you can see his face as he's just trying to telling the story, and he literally put himself back in that moment, and you could see him relive the moment. I was like, yo,
You know these people are actors. You know that, right? They can even
yo.
pretend to like they're embarrassed. Like these people are
I hear
professionals
you.
at
I
what
hear
they
you. No,
do.
no, no,
They're
no.
trained
Yeah.
in media. They're trained in how to draw hysteria. You know that's why I'm like, these
Yeah.
people are
Well,
But
let me
actors.
ask you this: do you think that with everything that he's accomplished in his life, right? With all the narratives, if he's part of the situation or not, do you think what would he garner um, doing that, right? And exposing himself.
I think it was a test
Huh.
to see what would you all do, and you didn't do nothing.
Mm.
I do
You as in
I think
men
these
or us
people do
as
a
in
lot of
black
tests
people?
on you, a lot of tests on the public to see when they disclose information what will happen. A lot of times,
Mm.
nothing. They
Okay.
disclosed JFK files, nothing,
Nothing. We seen the nigga shoot him right in the head, didn't we?
And y'all
Pow.
nothing.
ain't do nothing.
hey, that's funny. Um,
Okay, Sam. Let's
yeah.
see.
Yeah. So,
Man, push
um,
play, goddamn.
Well, I mean, if they agents, that's like saying we ain't do nothing about 6ix9ine. You know what I'm saying? But it's like again, if they agents, they being protected. Like I don't know if necessarily anything should come besides trying to just really get to us and stop focusing on them. Like I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
hey, yo, that's
George
funny.
Zimmerman,
Uh oh.
nothing. Nothing
Um,
ever
Ooh.
happens.
But again, if they
um,
protect it, that you putting yourself in harm's way. That's why like I want Solomon to finish, but
Hmm.
again, it's like if these people essentially if you allow these people to come into your area and your community, get you going one way, realizing they sent you down the wrong way, and then allegedly you got influence to get these people to wake up for the first time, and then you realize like damn you fucked me over, but then you see who's backing them. I don't necessarily think it'd be a smart thing to do anything, because again they already were protected from the beginning. That's why I don't think it should be outraged about a Zimmerman or anything like that. It should be more outraged that we not doing enough together to not allow some shit like that to happen, because again if these people are already with the bullshit, they're protected. That's why they can get away with the bullshit. That's how I look at it.
hmm
They just like
um,
to test to see how far they can go. 9/11, nothing. It's just tests. It's tests to see how far can they push the American public. And that's why we're at the point where we're at now, when we feel like we're just being bombarded with so many things at once because we have let a lot of things slide for so long.
Interesting. Interesting. Um. So that's so. Oh. So after that, right? Um. So Martin. So Martin gets shot. Um. Hosea Williams and Ralph Abernathy both tell a story about Martin getting taken like to the hospital and shit. So a couple things happened. One, the police that were around, so it was a bunch of police around, right? Um they all ran to Martin Luther King. Nobody went to look for the shooter. Okay. Um the when the ambulance got there, everybody, so they took Martin's body, they took him to the hospital. I think they said Ralph was in the ambulance with Martin. All the other staff, everybody goes to the hospital, right? Um Abernathy and Hosea Williams both say that they see Jesse Jackson go to the place where Martin was laying on the ground, right? His body had been moved. They say they see Jesse put his hands in Martin's blood and rub it on his shirt,
Messy Jesse.
right? And so when you see interviews of Jesse Jackson after that, on that day, because he was on the news that night, right? You see him for the next like 3-4 days. He's got the shirt on and he's telling a story about how Martin died in his arms, right?
That's literally where the term Messy Jesse came from. From that.
Hmm. um. So yeah, without getting too deep into kind of Jesse using this as a springboard um into his career, right? This was him sacrificing Martin. So he was involved in the sacrifice of Martin, right? And because he did that, he was rewarded with his position in life. He got a Miller distribution, right? So if you're in Chicago, because he lives in Chicago, all the fucking Miller products between like St. Louis and fucking, I think no, it's Miller products downtown comes through his distribution deal, right? Think about how much money that's worth. Think about Jesse. He got Rainbow Push. No, so it was Rainbow something at first. So he got $6 million for his nonprofit. It was Rainbow something. They gave him $6 million. He stole $1 million of it, right? He stole $1 million. Um, they motherfucking then they put a lien against that Rainbow fucking organization. Then he opened up Rainbow Push. No, it was Push something. It was Push something, and then he got $6 million for that. Then they fucking put he had a lien against that shit, and so he started Rainbow Push, right? And Rainbow Push headquartered in Chicago, and the Rainbow part comes from who? Y'all remember who had the Rainbow Coalition? Right? Remember who had the Rainbow Coalition in Chicago? Y'all watched this movie, Fred Hampton. So think about that shit, right? Fred Hampton got murdered by the police. He had the Rainbow Coalition. Jesse Jackson helped fucking murder fucking Martin Luther King. He got he got the push or Rainbow Push is his organization, right? So he took his organization from when he helped murder King, and then he took Fred Hampton's organization name and put them together. And that shit is still going on today. Rainbow Push is still an organization today, right? So the King assassination was Jesse's springboard into national prominence. But that's a whole different cook. Like getting into Jesse and what he did and how, dude. So nobody could leave out of fucking Memphis the day King got killed. Nobody, right? They shut down all the fucking roads, no trains, no planes, no nothing. Somehow Jesse Jackson ended up in Chicago on TV the next morning when nobody else could leave. Right? Who got him out? The feds got him out. Like he literally went on a fucking media tour the day after King got fucking shot and declared himself the heir apparent. And he's been that ever since. You know what I'm saying? But yeah. Um, so to cap this off, um, Judge Joe Brown does a really he's the new Dick Gregory, right? Joe Brown is the new Dick Gregory. He the old man that just like he know a lot of shit and be talking that shit like for real, for real. Um, so Judge Joe Brown, I think he said he was the last judge to hear the James Earl Ray case, right? In which he said the evidence showed that James Earl Ray wasn't even in town when Martin Luther King got killed. He wasn't even in fucking town. So he wasn't even a part of it. He was, according to Judge Joe Brown, James Earl Ray was one of 4 patsies that they had picked out that they were going to blame the motherfucking murder on. So he just lost. He lost the motherfucking blame game. All right. Um, and if a lot of times if you read about him, they'll say that he confessed and then he retracted his confession. He never confessed. So this is Judge Joe Brown who actually heard the case. He said he never confessed to it. Right? He pled to it because he saw that there was no way he was going to get off if he went to trial. So he pled to it without confessing. This is according to Judge Joe Brown. All right. Um. So according to Judge Joe Brown, there was a 2-man hit team that set up in the fire station rooming house. You know where the firemen sleep. He said it was a spotter and a shooter. They used a 30-06. Um, and nobody went and checked out the fucking rooming house. The whole scene was a setup. So he said the investigator who was on the scene was given information that the shot came from, I guess it was like a whorehouse across the way. That's what it was pointing at. He said, but the problem with that was the window at the fucking whorehouse, well, he calls it a flop house. The window at the fucking flop house was, it wouldn't open. It would only open like a little bit. 2, it was a big ass branch in front of it where you couldn't even see shit. And so he said the investigators said when he first got there was a branch there. Later on, he came back and they had cut the branch down, right, to make it look like that's where the shots came from. All right. Um, but in August 26, 1998, the Attorney General directed the Civil Rights Division of the United States Justice Department to investigate 2 separate recent allegations related to the April 4th assassination of Dr. King. These allegations emanate from Lloyd Jowers, a former tavern owner, and Donald Wilson, a former agent with the Federal Bureau of Investigation. In 1993, 25 years after the murder, Giles claimed that he participated in a conspiracy to kill Dr. King. According to the alleged mafia figure, Memphis police officers and a man named Raul, according to Giles, one of the conspirators shot Dr. King from behind his tavern. Wilson alleged that in 1998, that shortly after the assassination, while working as an FBI agent, he took papers from the abandoned car of James Earl Ray, the career criminal who pled guilty to murdering King. Bullshit. He didn't plead guilty. Well, he pled. He pled guilty. He didn't confess. Wilson claims he concealed them for 30 years. Some of the papers contain references to Raul, and with different spellings of his name, and figures associated with the assassination of President Kennedy. According to Wilson, someone who later worked in the White House subsequently stole the other papers he took from Ray's car, including one with the telephone number of an FBI office. Both Jowers and Wilson allegations suggest that persons other than or in addition to James Earl Ray participated in the assassination. Ray, within days of entering his guilty plea in 1969, attempted to withdraw it. Until his death in 1998, he maintained that he did not kill Dr. King and was framed by a man he knew only as Raoul. For 30 years, others have similarly alleged that Ray was Raoul's unwitting pawn and that the conspiracy orchestrated Dr. King's murder. These varied theories have generated several comprehensive government investigations regarding the assassination, none of which confirm the existence of any conspiracy. However, in King v. Jowers, a recent civil suit in Tennessee court, a jury returned a verdict finding that Jowers and unnamed others, including unspecified government agencies, participated in a conspiracy to assassinate Dr. King. So there you go. In 98, the civil suit concluded that this gentleman Jowers and people in the government conspired to assassinate Dr. King. All right. Any questions about any of that shit? And a hush fell over the crowd.
I'm just
No?
waiting to see how you bring it on home, bro.
Now, oddly enough, check this shit out. Where is it at? We got one more piece of information to throw up in this joint. Where the fuck is it at? I was reading it. What the fuck? Not in here. Where the fuck did I put it? I had one more piece of information that is worth talking about. That's like, what the fuck? It's a what the fuck. This ain't it. This ain't it. I want to. All right, I guess I gotta look up again. All right, so one more piece of information. One, hold on, I need his name. Um, yeah, here it goes. So in '74, so remember King was killed in '68. In '74, at the age of 69, Alberta King, Martin Luther King's mom, was shot by a gentleman by the name of Marcus Wayne Chenault. Marcus Wayne Chenault was a midget, allegedly. And he was 23. He's a 23-year-old midget. He looked like Gary Coleman while you bullshit. He shot Martin Luther King's mom, and allegedly he was a black Hebrew Israelite. What the fuck? Also in '64, I think, was it '64? Martin Luther King's brother died. I think he was drowned, right? Like a year later from King. So just like with the Kennedy family, it seems to be a rash of them, right? So with Kennedy, it was Joe Jr., JFK, and Bobby, right? Oh, and then Joe Jr. and then JFK Jr., right? With them, it's the mom, it's Junior, and then it's the brother, right? Um, yeah. So that was just two interesting nuggets, right? I say all that to say, when I look at the totality of the information, all right, upon inspecting the totality of the information, um, I definitely see how um, King was a pawn, right, of the elite, right, used by a lot of people in the communist fucking movement to attain a goal, right? But to me, it feels like um, and it might have been too late because he did a lot of damage, right? He was involved in a lot of it, right? He did a lot of damage, um, but I don't think he did it. Like I honestly don't think he knew what the fuck he was doing, right? Like I said, the most telling phrase to me is him admitting um that he integrated his people into a burning house, right? And so that sounds to me like he was taking kind of responsibility for it and recognizing that he fucked up. All right. Um, so while the communist presence was there, and I know a lot of people that'll be like, "Oh no, he wasn't a communist." Eh, wasn't he though? Wasn't he though? Um, Whether he knew it or not, he was. Um, and he was using communist tactics. He hung out with communists, doing communist things, furthering the communist agenda. I'm not sure exactly what you got to do to be a communist, but you know,
Yeah. Sound like Talib Kweli.
yeah. I mean, I know you and Talib got into it on IG, man. You got to relax. Um, but yeah, but it seems like he shook it off towards the end and was trying to get back, and before he could do it, they just got him. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said in the beginning, even like going through all the information that I went through, um, I still have a favorable opinion of him, right? Just combing through all the information, because I didn't even put out all the information that I combed through. I still have a favorable opinion of him. Like it's not, because it's a lot, right? And it definitely changes the picture, right, from what we were told. It's definitely a lot, but um, and all of that, it's a sober look, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, that's all I got. Yo, anybody got anything else they want to add?
Hell yeah. Man, I've
What
been
you got, bro?
around, I had the opportunity to be around you, talking about the code and how to create sellouts and things of that nature. And
Uh-huh.
I'm not gonna dismiss, because again, you said I feel, so I'm not gonna try to debate with your feelings and things of that nature. But just listening to you, I'm not rolling with that simply because those are the folks that you've been surrounded by. You know what I'm saying? We did the the black sheep. You know what I'm saying? When you got gifts and people gotta make sure that you hone in on those gifts, they make sure they keep you grounded. And to me, those folks made sure that he he would sell out his people, allegedly his people, by any chance he had, simply because that was in his DNA. You know what I'm saying? You go from age 7 as a child to an adult to then finally being used up and they don't really need you no more, and then say I sold my people out. Like, that you was raised like that, bro. Like, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? So I don't to me, I don't anticipate anything else. Um I don't My question that I have for you earlier is like, if you know that's who you associated with, can you bring that person inside your business, knowing that the history that they got, that's the parenting that they're receiving? Can you trust somebody like that?
So I think a lot of that depends on self awareness, right? Um, how aware is this person of who they are and what they did, um, and what do they want to change, right? So people aren't static, right? You gotta allow
Well,
for you
well,
gotta
if you
allow
asking
and know
somebody
that people
self
are dynamic.
awareness, though, bro, you asking them to go against their whole family at that point in time, then, right? Like you can't say,
Yeah,
yo,
but
go ahead.
nigga, I mean that's not uncommon. There's a lot of motherfuckers that go against their family, especially motherfuckers who conclude their family on fuck shit. It's like, hey, yo, I ain't on that. Dude, it's people that go against their family in both instances where the family is like on some good shit and motherfuckers being turned bad, right? So why wouldn't the opposite be true where the family's on some fuck shit and niggas is like, nah, I'm cool, I ain't on that.
Yeah, later, you know what I'm saying? I feel like you would have, I don't know, like, I guess my thing is like the timing, like, you got to do that shit early enough to not have these type of situations, and that's why you keep quote unquote some real ones around you, and they kept like, I don't know, bro, like if you got handlers, like either you being handled or you gonna break out of that shit, and clearly he didn't break out of it in time, so I just, yeah.
You know what I
Mm,
think? I
mm,
think that when he made that speech, yes, he was acknowledging what he did and how the trajectory of Black America changed once they got into these cities. He described the living conditions, rat infested, and things like that. But I think they were gonna, maybe the plan was to have him transition to now a city civil activist in these cities now, because in the cities, who popped up as the new civil activist? It was Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson. Every time a random Black person got killed or a police riot happened, these were the new faces that were popping up in cities advocating for the people. So I think maybe that was the plan, but they had to set the tone that, okay, all right, yeah, we gotta let them know that, yeah, shit is fucked up here, but we're on their side, and we're gonna provide them with a voice or be the voice for them. Because I like, a sense of me is saying, yeah, maybe he did change, maybe he saw the light, but the other side of me, I'm going on with X, is like, this man is born and bred to be what he is. So even in his speeches, yeah, he's on. Remember, an agent is gonna always say some real shit that you can feel. They may even say some shit that'll make you cry, that make you feel like, damn, he really feeling. But that doesn't mean that he was for them. So I think that that speech was the open door for the new era of the MLKs. Once again, like I said, the Al Sharptons that came along, and they sped up Black America's demise with police riots now.
um, let me see. So have you seen the video of that shit
A video of what shit?
when he was talking about when he was talking about he integrated his people into
Yeah,
burning
that's
house?
one of my favorite speeches. Yeah.
Yeah. So when I look at his eyes, um, it rings true to me, right? And sometimes that's all we got to go on, right? You got to go on your intuition. So when I look in his eyes, nigga, that shit looks sincere, right? Um, and so for because what he's telling the truth because he did. He's admitting what he did. He looks sincere, and contrite, and his actions say that he's trying to do something different, right? That he's trying to undo what he did, or at least, or if
How
you
would
can't
he have
undo
done
it.
that
Yeah, I
though?
was gonna say you can't undo it, but um,
And look sincere. Like, what speech did he give that he didn't look sincere?
um, so it's not about him not looking sincere. So when he said what he said, I believed it because, like I said, I think he was a true believer, right? It's one thing you take a true believer and you point them in a direction and you weaponize them against their people. He wasn't ever insincere, right? I think he believed all that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's just that he recognized that, yo, the shit that I did before that shit worked against my people. Fuck, I made a mistake.
But who are his people? Because remember, we're dealing with a time period
Great question.
when we're dealing with colored, we had Negro, colored, we had a lot of
Hmm?
different people classifying themselves as different things. Now, I could tell you from firsthand experience, I know for a fact Jesse Jackson is a card holding tribal member of the Cherokee Nation.
Hmm?
So when he was pushing out the African American rhetoric after MLK's demise, that's all a part of the plan. So when you talking about my people, who is MLK's people? Because for all
Uh,
we know, the people that he initially wanted to be integrated in those cities, it was probably the ones that did come via slave trade. But the ones that maybe was of this land that were really about his lineage, because he does have some indigenous ties, maybe that's who he did not think was going to get caught up in the bullshit. So we
uh,
got to really be clear about who people, and we can't use skin tone, because at this era of the civil rights movement, people were very still proud of indigenous roots, and there
mhm.
were other people that also had Caribbean roots. There were people that had African roots, if that's what they identified as. There were a lot of different types of black people, and they did not hide it. So who was his people?
Yeah, so the thing is, whenever he talked, he never really delineated the different types of, because at that time they were using Negroes. So he never really delineated the different types of Negroes. I think he was just using it as a catch-all term, right?
And then, is
For
that a
right or for
problem?
wrong. Nah, not really. Um, so he was, so I think he's just talking about, um, in his terms, Negroes in general, right? And
But
so,
who were the Negroes? Because everybody wasn't a Negro, but
um,
but they
so
share complexions and they live together.
yeah,
Hey,
so
you
that's the
know what?
thing. When you listen, hold on, when you listen to somebody, I don't listen with my ears. I listen with their ears, right? So, with his intent, I think he's talking about all fucking black people, people classified as black. Is it accurate? No. But again, if I'm trying to understand what he's saying, then I have to listen for intent, right? And so his intent is he's talking about a catch-all term.
So let me ask this question then. Or
Hmm.
I just make this statement.
Hmm.
When W.E.D. Du Bois came to Black Wall Street, he did not come to a black area. He came into Indian territory. Greenwood is located within the Cherokee Nation territory. Okay? That's why it was such a big deal about the whole burning down thing, because they were walking out of the U.S. jurisdiction. To this day, Oklahoma is constantly going to court with the tribal nations because of jurisdiction, and the Oklahoma police not having jurisdiction over a majority of fucking Oklahoma, and they have to constantly settle on what lines they have jurisdiction on, because you got to remember that's where a lot of the tribes were sent to when they were coming off the Trail of Tears. They all got dumped into Oklahoma. So I'm saying that to say this: these people knew the difference. They know who they're talking to. The people who started the NAACP, they were American Indians. Look at the background of the founders. Those people that y'all keep calling Negro, I bet you money they have indigenous roots. And I know they do, because I know some of their descendants. So once again, when we start looking at the back, because I know a lot of times in these conversations, we don't deal with genealogy and we don't deal with lineage, right? But if you look at the lineage of a lot of these people that were pushing this stuff, they were American Indians. But they were talking to a certain particular group of people that were in this country. And there were other so called black people that were amongst the Indians. They were here. So when you say my people or those people or the
Hmm.
people, you do have to specify who you're talking to. Because, like I said, you got people like Jesse Jackson, who was a
Hmm.
Cherokee member nation,
Hmm.
and he's still telling y'all that you're African American in the 80s. You got people like Maxine Waters, who's also pushing for different things like black immigration and things like that. But
Yeah,
she is
but
a
those are
card,
agents.
she's a card holding member of the
Mhm.
Cherokee Nation. And I know that for a fact because I met her at Congress. So what I'm saying is this: who are the people that they're really talking to. And that's where Black America is going to have to start waking up, because
Hmm.
this Black label, you guys are falling deeper and deeper into the hole, because most of the people that are putting out some of these propagandas, I'm sorry, unfortunately, they're Indians.
So this the thing, right? So Jesse
We're
and
waking up.
fucking Maxine Waters are fucking agents, right? So if we're listening for understanding, that's cool, right? So what I would say is, um, you have to be consistent in how you listen to people, or at least look for consistency. So if you're saying that, yo, he was delineating, if you're saying somebody was delineating, um, the audience or who he was referring to, then I would say, okay, cool. Find me a speech where he made, where he delineated between the different black people, right? So I can catch his index or his glossary or his definition of terms. If you're saying that, oh yeah, he was talking to these people or he wasn't talking about these people, okay, cool. Um, Point me to a place, some writings or somewhere where he made these distinctions, either in private or public, so that I can then start to decipher what he meant, right? Because I've never heard King specifically, because that's what we're talking about. I've never heard him make delineations, right?
No,
Have
he
you?
did not. No.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I mean. So
But isn't that a problem
That's
though?
that's
That's
the
how we,
point
isn't that
I'm
how we got
making.
here?
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
problem.
I follow you. That I
so
follow
wait,
you.
wait. So that's the thing. Um, to say it's a problem means we're assuming that he knows something
He
different.
does. They all
I would
knew
say he
at that
do if
time.
that's their
Okay,
agenda though,
wait. All
bro.
right. So wait,
All
wait, wait, wait,
those
wait.
Boule
Where's the?
people, they knew. They know the
I get
truth.
you. I get you. No, no, no. I get you. Where's the evidence, though? I understand you. You think he does. What's the evidence that he knew?
That's like saying, what's
Yeah.
evidence that we knew that he's an agent? We look,
Oh,
look,
so we
you
got
know,
evidence.
because that's his lineage. If you trace his family back, he ties back to some indigenous roots. So you're
No, no,
not
no.
gonna
I don't
tell me
disagree with that part.
he didn't know that. He knew,
No, no,
no,
no.
they know there's a difference between different blacks on his landmass.
So we're talking about pre-integration, right? So we're talking about pre-integration. I mean, not pre-integration. We're talking. Well, it is. We're talking about pre-integration, and we're talking about pre-immigration, right? The people coming to this land from different, especially black countries, it wasn't that many. So the majority of the people that he's calling Negroes that he's talking to are the Native Americans, right? So he's talking to the people classified as Negro who are the former Native Americans. So everybody he's talking to, presumably, are people who were reclassified.
American Indian.
Okay,
Right.
but you have
But
to understand there's also a population of people that were coming. Remember, there were free blacks migrating in the 1800s. We're not even dealing with the 60s.
what
1800s,
was the
they were
percentage of
coming
those
from
people
all over
though?
the Caribbean, coming from all over Europe, even from Africa. They were migrating into the country. So there was a growing population of people. A lot of people in the South, what I've noticed that because of the immigration is so long ago that did come down there, you don't even know that it's down there. But if I'm pretty sure if you from Alabama, Mississippi, I don't care where you're from, you're gonna have a 13 colony history at some point. Because a lot of people migrated to those locations. So it could have migrated 3 generations ago, 4 generations ago. Doesn't mean you didn't migrate there. So what I'm saying is that there always were different types of blacks that were here. If you chose to be classified as Negro, then unfortunately you fall under a lot of this stupid ass propaganda. You feel what I'm saying?
Bro, some
Even
of
if
them
you
were
are
Mm-hmm.
duped.
Indian.
Some of them were duped to be under that label. But yo, I was gonna say, I've been looking for. I got in my possession. It's a comparison photo of a ancient Mayan mask and Dr. King's face, his likeness, identical
And then you got to remember
to an
that
ancient Mayan
So
mask.
before
so
it was
check
the
this
civil
out.
rights movement, it was the Indian civil rights movement, okay? It was a spinoff. When I
Mm-hmm.
tell you that these people know what they were doing, they knew what they were doing. Okay,
Right.
it's not
Yeah,
it's
so you
not
got to
like did they
remember.
know people at that time period. It's not like today where we're so indoctrinated from public school. You didn't have the public school education teaching you something else. At this time period, there was a lot more family interactions where people did have a pride in the sense of wherever the indigenous roots were. all I really want to know,
But
in
most of the
conspiracy
black
theory and
folks
all,
was indigenous back then. There was very few
what
like immigrated
Right. So
black
check this out.
folks
In the
doing what we was doing
'60s,
in the
in the
South.
'60s, there was less than 200,000 Caribbeans in the country. Less than 200,000 in
okay,
the
what's the numbers on
country.
the black Europeans that came?
And the black Europeans that
The
came in the
entire Southern
'60s,
culture, your marching band culture, your debutante culture, that ain't nothing but European culture you're doing down there.
yeah, but those people were
So
here.
what's your
But those
population?
people had been here, right? So those people were here well before that. They came over. Goddamn, now we talking reset times, right?
But that's still a different type of black. That's amongst the
Yeah,
Indian.
but it wasn't a
Come
whole.
on.
It wasn't. They wasn't outnumbering the indigenous black people. They wasn't
And at
even
that,
close to
yeah,
outnumbering.
and at that time they weren't really separated from the American Indian. They had already married into these motherfuckers. Like they
Yep,
were all just considered one. I think they considered
interwoven.
themselves one people at that point, right?
No, some of
So,
them did not marry because a lot of them still kept their bloodlines intact. So
mhm,
I just want all I'm saying is this. I think if we dig deeper into his speeches, maybe one day we should break it down
mhm,
into a lot of those leaders, because I know a lot of those leaders were Indians. I know that
mhm.
because
I
I
believe you,
know their descendants, right?
Yeah,
right?
So I would
because
love to see what would they really trying to push on people who classified as Negro, because a lot of people at this point they were trying to be more progressive. They were leaving their reservations, so they wanted to be a part of the United States. So they don't really have their tribal nation covering from whatever continent they come from. So what were they really trying to push that now all of a sudden he comes out and says, "Oh, oops, I did this. Oops, oops, I didn't know I was
hey,
gonna do
but
that.
remember, a
Oops."
lot of the Negroes did not. They didn't choose. It wasn't a choice for American Indians to be reclassified as Negro in a lot of cases.
Facts,
Yeah, I think I would know
exactly.
that. Yeah, but there were people that did leave because the tribes,
Yeah,
remember, they're forced on a reservation. There's no food, they're not
I
farming.
know. All I'm
These
saying
people
is
had to get opportunities, so they had a lot of times
you kept
people had
saying
to also
choose, and
leave.
I'm
So a lot
just
we don't
clarifying.
always tell the full story. We only tell the side where people were unfortunately forced from their identities. Yes, that is
Nah,
true,
yeah, it's
but
both
there's also
sides.
people that actually wanted to integrate into the United States corporation for opportunities.
Right, and then there's the other ones in the South whose churches got burnt, which was the record houses, which was the proof of who they was, and they had no choice. I mean that whole Walter
Oh, you breaking up, kid.
adopted every. I was saying that Walter Pleckard thing wasn't just local to Virginia; it was adopted everywhere. You know what I mean, but I hear
Yeah,
what you're
Hmm.
yeah,
saying.
but
That some people,
a lot of
some
people integrate. A lot of people
yeah,
wanted
some
to
people though.
integrate into the black identity at some point. People still
Yeah,
integrate
I
today
mean,
into
I don't
being
think that was
black.
popular though. Listen, I'm saying I don't think that was we was running to go be um, what we weren't. I don't think that was the majority of Negroes back then, for lack of
But
better.
it's not about what you wanted, it's about survival. People had to do what they had to do.
I mean, yeah, and that's exactly. Like, a lot of people they had no choice. That the record houses was burnt down.
Nah, that's him.
Oh, can you can't hear me now?
Yeah, I hear you now. Go ahead.
I'm saying a lot of those folks didn't. To my point, like what you just said is exactly right. They didn't have a choice. If whatever they was eating was overkilled and hunted and this and that the other, they was corralled into joining into the system. You know what I'm saying? I know I hear what you're saying. Some shows, sure, but the whole truth is, I mean, a lot of American Indians were by proxy forced to reclassify or starve, like you were saying.
Did he go out?
If you're talking, Linnell, we can't hear you.
No, I was waiting to see if he was done. Okay, that's cool.
I got
Um,
something.
all
Hold
right.
on,
Who
now.
was that? Who was that?
You,
Sonny?
it's me, Sonny. You know
What's
where
up?
you were like, show me a speech where Martin Luther King knew what he was doing and
Mm-hmm.
was, well, he didn't come out and say, hey, these are Aboriginal people and these are immigrators. Um, But he did say he was going back to Washington because the government owed us a lot of money and he was going to get that check because he knew
Mm-hmm.
how people were forced off their land. So if they were forced off their land, they were already here before the colonizers came, and
Mm.
he was going to get the
So
money for the land that they took.
so um forced off the land meant a lot of things. So
He
eminent
also
domain, like
talked about how they built the schools to and taught the farmers
mm,
how to farm,
right.
and they
So
gave a lot of people free land. So I think he did know, as Sean was saying, he did.
so
I
you
think
talking about the
he
poor
knew what
people's
he was
campaign. So
doing.
that was a poor people's campaign, right?
Yep, that was the
So
Poor People's Campaign.
hmm so people being forced off their land was more about sharecroppers and eminent domain and Highway Act and all of that shit. That wasn't so much about like you going way way back. So he
But
was
if he
talking
did
about
his
more recent
research on
times.
how they got kicked off their land, he knew where it all started because he wasn't here too far from
Mm.
when they were taking people's land from them. He wasn't. I don't think he
Yeah,
was just talking about sharecroppers because the
Right.
so-called sharecroppers never owned their land in the first place. Let the history books tell it. They were working
yeah.
off of someone else's land.
Yeah, so that's an assumption, right? So again, we're back to making assumptions. That's why I'm like, yo, let's see some evidence or pattern of speech where he demonstrates that he has this knowledge. That's what I mean.
Well,
You
if
get
he's
what I'm
talking
saying?
about land being taken and he's talking about leading people to burning houses, most of the people who were leaving
Yeah,
the South, they were leaving their land. They weren't leaving apartments, they were leaving land behind. That
Mm,
was the burning house, that you left a tangible asset to go live in a concrete building. He understood that. That's why he described the living conditions that people were living in the cities when he made that speech. He
mm,
understood that. So once
mm,
again, a lot of the people who were owning land, unless they had a land patent, right? They were those indigenous people. So we
right.
can't sit here and play obtuse because, like I said, Dr. King, if you really want to do genealogy, like I said, which is what y'all should include in these conversations, you'll see that him and Obama are related. We can wake that up. They
Mm-hmm.
are. A lot of these people are
You said
related. And
so. They're
that's why they
related.
come, hold on, that's why they come and they play the same role over and over and over again, and we have not caught on
So they're related
So
to the times four grandfather. You said
to the who.
the grandfather times four, the fourth tier of grandparents, grandfather. That's how they're related.
Let me go, let me go get the record. I gotta find the screenshot.
mm.
Yeah. No, I'm just
It
going
um
could
off
be
what
the
you put in the
third or
chat.
so
the fourth. It's one of the two.
Yeah. Well,
It
just doing the
comes out.
math, like times four grandparents, we got 32 of them. Half of those would be men. So that, I mean, that's not like ooh, hey, we're related like that.
Then why do
That's
y'all
one.
bring up
That's
about the
hold on.
Illuminati and people being related then?
That's only one out of 15 grandfathers. You did. It's a lot of us in this room that might be related on the
Okay,
fourth
but if
level
you're
going
related
back.
then
I'm just
and
saying.
you are Indian, do you know y'all Indians then? That's the point.
No,
That's
but
the
that's
point
only
I'm
if
proving.
but if it's only one hold on, if it's only one grandfather going four generations back, that's only one of 16 fathers on that
Listen,
level.
you
It's
can
only
play
one that is
semantics,
related.
but
It's not semantics. I'm
listen,
saying the to
if
see the
they're
bigger
related,
picture of
they're
how people
related.
who people are
And
made
a lot
up.
of people don't know
Yeah,
that they're
nah.
related. You're acting like as if you knew they were related. A lot of people don't
Nah,
know
I
that a lot
mean
of these
I
people
didn't
are
know that, but
related.
I'm just saying it's times four grandparent, father. So that's 16 dudes going back that far. If
I
they were
know, listen,
related to
I
like
know the
it through
number.
five of those, then that would be more
Listen,
significant.
I
But
know
that's
the
only one
number.
out of 16 men.
Listen,
Yeah,
I
that's all
deal
I'm
with the
saying.
genealogy. I know the number. That's how I know some of y'all ain't the indigenous people. Some of y'all are not the African. Some of y'all are the European that came here,
Yeah,
right?
that's good.
It don't matter how many generations ago that you came here. If that's your bloodline, that's your bloodline. And a lot of these people that are in positions of power, they take value in their bloodline. They don't care about it was 64 grandparents. They don't give a damn because we're connected by that bloodline. And that's what
I
they have
understand that.
allegiance
All I'm
to.
saying is I'm painting a
They have an
broader
allegiance
picture.
to their bloodline. And for anyone to say that that's not true or that it doesn't mean anything, then have you been paying
No,
attention?
I'm not. I'm
Think
not.
about how many
I'm just
celebrities
drawing
are related to,
a clearer
how many
picture.
celebrities are related to George Washington? How many celebrities are related to William the Conqueror? Yeah, think about how many grandparents that adds up to go way back to William the Conqueror. But guess what? They still make sure all their descendants, no matter how far you got to go back, are in positions of power. They don't care.
Right.
Hey man,
I get
first
all
of
that.
all, no black European slander. I think my name is a black European name, so I can't have y'all slandering the black Europeans that came here. That might be my people. Um, God damn it. All right, dude, you niggas will argue all night long. Yo, any questions about what we were talking about? In terms of the communist connection, because that's the shit that um I thought was important to kind of talk about, right? Um, the and and the handlers and the agenda behind the civil rights movement, right? That's kind of what I wanted to focus on today, because everybody talks about the assassination. That's why I kind of spent. So that was um, I didn't spend a lot of time on that because I assumed everybody knows about the assassination and who was involved in it and all that shit. I don't think most people know about his early years. And I think like my somebody in the chat assumed that he was just a child genius. Nah, there's no evidence he was a child genius, my boy. Evidence is that he was picked, you know what I'm saying, and groomed to do what he was doing. You get what I'm saying? Um, so um yeah. There's a lot. There's a long ass cook too. I think we 7.5 hours in. God damn. I did not intend to do this. This is gonna be a short day. This is gonna be my short day. Um so that being said, this has been an interesting one. I'm sure we're gonna have to pick it up at some point in time. Shane gonna come back with the genealogy. Um, and we're gonna be talking about how some white dude this day is Obama and Martin Luther King, 17th great granddaddy and shit. And we gonna get into
It
that
matters. It
shit.
matters.
I believe
You won't keep falling for the same psyop if you know what you're looking at.
that's facts. I agree with
Yeah, it
that.
matters. But yeah,
Um,
one grandparent on that level
Yes, it
doesn't
does
mean that's
matter.
all
Stop
you
being
are.
triggered. It matters.
hey
No. I'm
yo, hey,
simply
wait,
saying
wait.
like it
Can I
doesn't
close
make
out?
all of you. Just
Hey,
one
y'all
grandparent on
can
that level.
argue in the next
Come on,
Oh,
room.
man.
I'm
I'm
not
gonna let y'all argue
arguing.
to y'all heart
Nah,
I'm
content.
not
me
Y'all,
neither.
arguing.
wait,
Shit,
y'all had
I'm
it.
clarifying.
Y'all had this discussion. Y'all had this discussion in the next room. Let me close this one out. God
Yeah.
damn it.
Good night,
Um.
y'all.
All right, man. Yo, this was cool. I had a good time. Um, like I said, I hope y'all learned something. My point is to always bring out information and new perspectives and shit. Um, so that be the point of my whole shit. So I hope I did, and hope people got something from it. Um, this is one of those sacred cows, right? Um, so King is a sacred cow. Most people. Um, I think Joseph checked out on me. X, did Joseph check out on me because it was too much?
I had a joke for that, but I'm gonna let it go.
Uh, I think Joseph checked out because it was too much, man. Um, but it's part of the process. Yo, this is real. All right, I'm gonna see y'all in a minute. As usual. Oh, we back on Friday. You know, we're gonna do esoteric biochemistry. So that should be as heavy a conversation as this one is. So I'll be busy tomorrow getting ready for that one on Friday. Um, but yeah, it should be interesting. The Astro Mix guy should be cooking heavy on that shit because this is her bag. All right. So we'll see y'all Friday. Remember, vigorforpain.com, the world's greatest topical CBD products. Vigor4pain.com. New product coming soon. Yo, the new product. Mwah, yo, yeah. Anyway, so I got to work on that. I got a lot of work to get done, man. Y'all be killing me. All right, X, give me 20 seconds, kid.
Blackisuniform.com, blackisuniform.com. Fellas, get your drop it off shorts. Ladies, bitch you for biddies, the side boost special. The lay it down and put it down blanket. We definitely still have the major looks. Original on code shirts for the kids as well. Bro said it earlier. On the second page of the website, it's shirts. What is it again, bro? Quotes.
Talking tees, bro. The
Talking tees.
talking
Okay, talking
tees.
tees. Talking tees. Okay, talking tees. Make sure you check out the talking tees. We got the slipping them slides for the fellas, the fetish flops for the ladies, carbon highs, carbon lows, the kickbacks and the walkthroughs. Those are the shoes and the slides. We definitely have foot mittens. Those are the socks. Lay it down and put it down blanket. If you take a picture, send it to the IG so it can't get posted. Blackisuniform.com, blackisuniform.com.
Get you a talking tee, man. Like I said, the quotes is dope. Guaranteed conversation starters. Guaranteed to convey the shit you want say. You want to say. I got a lot. Um, I got a bunch more coming out. This is just the first batch. I got a bunch more coming out, so check them out. And also, hey man, y'all pray for my Meta account to get free and shit. The IG store is functioning. So yo, you can check us out on IG. The store is functioning. Pray for my Meta account to get cracking though, so I can start tagging shit and making ads and shit. But other than that, man, all right, I'm gonna see y'all Friday, man. We out this joint.
Thanks for coming to the cookout, but you need the right gear. Blackisuniform.com, you can get it right here. We talk flat earth and mud floods. You might hear about the dome. No matter the topic, you just need something with the shield on. Blackisuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home. Blackisuniform.com, where conspiracy analysts are at home.
Vigor Sport is love and light in a bottle, a CBD infused salve that rids the body of pain, arthritis, carpal tunnel, and muscle aches. There's no job too great for Vigor Sport. Headaches, muscle spasms, and menstrual cramps are a thing of the past. Vigor Sport is the Swiss Army knife of your medicine cabinet. Order your jar today at vigorforpain.com.